But you have to give it to them. They have been in great form because I happened to watch...
Thank you.
No, but to say
no, they have been in great form.
Victor, you must confess this. You guys struggled yesterday. It was a struggle.
And that is football.
It was very clear. It was a you guys struggled for about 90 minutes.
We all know that was a derby. That was a derby. And those boys have done exceptionally. Mike, give us a will not accept that a win is a win, period. Mike, good morning.
Good morning to you, Victor. And to everyone who is watching KBC Channel 1, here is how you start your morning. My name is Mike Migwe, and I implore you to be part of every discussion that is happening right here on KBC Channel 1. Remember, we are KBC Channel 1 on all our social media platforms. And the conversation today is all about Africa Forward Summit. And as Victor has put it, a lot is going to be discussed within that summit, including reforming the international financial system, energy transition and green industrialization, blue economy, sustainable agriculture, and many more. So you need to be tuned to Good Morning Kenya and just have that pre-summit analysis that will be driven by Victor Olo. My name is Mike Migwe, and I implore you to continue watching KBC Channel 1. Give us on.
Yeah.
Manu mko wapi kwa table?
Mani tuko ligi sasa. Tuko champe.
Okay.
You know, that was the big...
Tuko tusha secure. We have sealed the Champions League.
But you wait for how many days to play another game? 21 days? Like you have another game? When do you have another game?
No, it doesn't matter. What matters as Manchester United fans, we are happy. We are happy. We are happy. Anyway, and happiness is what matters.
Again, let's give it up to you. Ever since Michael Carrick arrived, you've done very well.
Oh yeah.
You have done very well.
Thank you.
So
thank you.
Congratulations. Take it away. Give us one. Take it away.
My name is Gibason Maina. So join us for the next 30 minutes for news within and of course across the country. But first, let's start with this. Now, Kenya and France have signed 11 agreements aimed at deepening bilateral and trade ties between the two nations. Part of the agreements includes the modernization of the Nairobi commuter rail system for 12 billion shillings and a 9 billion shillings construction and management of a new terminal at the port of Mombasa. Take a look.
The French President Emmanuel Macron jetted into the country for the second time 7 years after he made his maiden African trip. The French President is in the country to attend the France-Africa Summit, which is seen as an attempt to reset French ties with Africa after suffering major political, economic and social setbacks in its traditional domain of West Africa.
It's hard to say that Western Africa will not be present in this room. You have 3 countries, and I do regret that, which decided, because of the coup and the behaviors of the military people in charge, to put them aside from the rest of the club, by the way, aside of ECOWAS as well and others. It doesn't mean that West Africa is not part of this meeting.
President William Ruto has said the meeting will help Africa and France chart a new path of collaboration and mutual respect.
The first summit signaling a shift to a broader, much more inclusive relationship with Africa, recalibrated with the understanding of respect for sovereignty, being a relationship that is mutually beneficial and a relationship that recognizes Africa's position and priorities.
President Ruto has said Kenya will use France to push the interests of Africa on the global space, especially on restructuring the global financial system, security cooperation, and green energy development. Already, Kenya and France have signed a security cooperation that seeks to secure Kenyan maritime domain and address terrorism. Part of the economic deal signed today between Kenya and France includes the modernization of the Nairobi commuter rail system from Central Station to suburbs like Ruiru, Syokimau, and Riruta.
We have held extensive bilateral discussions aimed at deepening cooperation in trade and investment, particularly in manufacturing, renewable energy, pharmaceuticals, digital innovation, and agro-industrial development.
Another agreement will see France invest 9 billion shillings in modernizing the port of Mombasa to improve efficiency and capacity. The 2-day France-Africa meeting will see heads of state from Africa, business leaders and investors meet in Nairobi in a bid to reset ties with Paris.
And of course, that particular summit is to begin this morning. Now, Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen has acknowledged that insecurity linked to banditry remains a persistent challenge in several parts of the country, saying the government is intensifying long-term security and development interventions to address the problem. His remarks come as the security agencies investigating Saturday's deadly ambush in Mandera County say they have obtained crucial leads as operations intensify in pursuit of the attackers who killed 6 people and injured several others.
Security operations have intensified in Omar Jilo and surrounding areas of Mandera County following Saturday's ambush that left 6 people dead and several others injured.
Tumeanzisha uchunguzi na unaendelea na tayari tumepata fununu kuhusiana na hayo mashambulizi na hivi karibuni hao ambao wamefanya kitendo hiki cha uhaini wataweza kupatikana na kushtakiwa kufuatana na sheria.
The victims were traveling towards Arabia town when armed attackers opened fire on their vehicle in what is suspected to have been a planned ambush along the route.
Sisi kama serikali ya Mandera, Gavana Mohamed Adan Khalif, pia mimi kama Deputy Governor, inshallah tumesimama na nyinyi bega kwa bega. Tutahakikisha kwamba wale wameletwa hapa watapata huduma muhimu sana ya hospitali.
Meanwhile, Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen says insecurity linked to banditry remains a challenge in several regions, driven by illegal firearms, porous borders, and long-standing development gaps in affected areas.
Bunduki yenye ziko katika dunia hiyo ni 3,000 na hizo bunduki zote inatokana na kuwa na porous borders, kuwa na majirani kama Somalia, kuwa huko Ethiopia, sehemu ambayo hawana serikali ambayo inachunga mambo ya bunduki, mambo ya South Sudan na sehemu zingine za Uganda huko.
Murkomen says additional security measures are being rolled out, including improved deployment of officers and coordination with the local communities to strengthen surveillance in high-risk areas.
Tumepanga kuhakikisha kwamba tunaweka more NPR officers. Wale wenye walikuwa pale ambao ni wakora tunawaondoa wao. Kuna NPR wengine pia walienda kushikana na wale wakora. Hawa ndio wanaambia kujeni saa ngapi, ng'ombe iko wapi, mwenye ng'ombe yako wapi na hiyo. Na hawa if we hear tumeshika hawa, tumewapeleka kotini, hakuna mtu msimtetee.
Leaders have meanwhile called for calm in Mandera, warning against retaliatory attacks as investigations continue.
Naomba wakaaji wa Mandera tusiwe na haraka ya kutaka kulipiza kisasi, tutulie na tuachie serikali iweze kuchukua hatua kwa wale ambao watapatikana wamehusika na kitendo hiki.
Security agencies say operations will remain ongoing until those behind the ambush are arrested and prosecuted.
Now, Kenyans joined the rest of the world in marking Mother's Day on Sunday. Now, a day that honors the unwavering love, strength, and sacrifice of mothers and mothers' figures in the children's lives. Our reporter Teresa Mutai gives us a highlight of how the day marked in different parts of the world, with mothers from different walks of life sharing heartfelt reflections on their own definition of motherhood, with a call for more support of mothers for the critical role they play in shaping the society.
The usually quiet grounds of Kabarnet police station came alive with songs and dance, laying of lesos on the ground as hundreds of mothers gathered to celebrate the OCS Shamsa Abedi, a woman they say has changed their community. For years, many families, especially mothers in the town, struggled silently as alcohol and drugs consumed the lives of their families.
Tumekuja hapa kwa ajili ya kushukuru huyu mama, Madam OCS. Kwa ajili ametufanyia kazi mzuri sana.
Baada ya wamama wengi kuona manyumba sao manyumba mingi ama tuseme kila familia inalia sababu ya vitu zinafanyika kwa society zenye si mzuri, hasa zaidi kwa maneno ya miadharadi na maneno ya pombe.
A situation that prompted various protests in Kabarnet town, but all that is changing.
Wakati OCS alipofika Kabarnet, vijana wetu hawakuwa wakilala manyumba. Siku ya leo tukikaa hivi, 3/4 of vijana wetu wanalala nyumbani.
Hope emerged about a year ago after the deployment of OCS Shamza Abedi, who launched sustained operations targeting illicit brew dens, drug peddlers and criminal networks.
Na the kind of information tunashare na shukuru kama polisi sisi tuna appreciate. Ndio maana tulikuwa sema issue ya community policing. Community policing, polisi peke yangu sitaweza.
Residents say her efforts have restored order in a previously troubled town. Back in Nairobi, a flower vendor, Grace Wanjiru, opened shop.
Kwanga nikiuza flowers hapa for a while. It's been 5 years and I like selling flowers because it spreads love. Yeah, unasikianga poa sana kuandikia mtu kadi wakipeleka za birthday and whatever. Ningependa other moms kupata gifts. Yes, to feel wonderful.
Grace, who was, however, hoping to make a killing on the flower business, says the business has been a bit low compared to last year, owing it to tough economic times.
Tunaomba other people will still come. Yes, imekuwa low. If we compare from last year, it was high, but we can see the economy kuna venye inflammation and everything.
Grace says motherhood can be challenging and there is need for support and understanding from society.
It's a job, especially mentally, so consider them, always be asking their welfare and all those things.
Her sentiments were echoed by other mothers who celebrated the day at the Holy Family Basilica.
Bila mama hakuna familia. Mama ni nguzo ya familia.
To the society out here, it is good that we continue supporting our mothers so that they can be able to do their job easily.
In our matters politics now, a section of Kenya Kwanza leaders say the 2027 general election will not only be about President William Ruto win, but the magnitude of the victory. Now led by Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, the leaders are confident that the UDA victory will break the endless cycle of presidential petitions after the polls. Here is Abdi Aziz Hashim with the details.
Kenya Kwanza leaders led by the Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi joined faithfuls at the Holy Mass at St. Peter's Cathedral in Kapsabet, Nandi County. It is here where the ruling party exuded confidence in clinching another term in 2027.
It is not about the victory. It is now going to be the size of the victory. That is what we should be working for. We want him to win so that there is no doubt.
Kuna watu wanatembea kwa sehemu zote wakihubiri ukabila na utengano. Ile kazi mlimpatia Mheshimiwa Rais inasaishwa kutumia ile report card ataleta, itasaishwa kupitia marking scheme ile iliwekwa wakati ya campaign.
The leaders arguing that 2027 will not be about victory, but the size and the margin of President Ruto's win.
Msimamo ambao tumechukua ni kusema kwamba sio tu Mheshimiwa William Ruto ashinde tena, lakini sasa tunataka ashinde kwa kiwango ambacho yule mtu ambaye atathubutu kuenda kwa petition ataona aibu.
The question I want you to ask yourself is, what is it that the rest of the world sees in the leadership of William Ruto that you never get a chance to see here in Kenya? Because it is not that those people are idle.
Sisi na Wakenya wote, we are for a united Kenya.
This as the National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula has revealed that he has no intentions for vying for any seat come 2027.
Sasa mambo ya siasa, nimekuwa ordinary MP, nikakuwa assistant minister, nikakuwa minister, nikakuwa senator wenu, sasa niko speaker number 3 in Kenya. Kweli nitakuwa wazimu kiasi gani kurudi nyuma kubishana kwa mambo madogo madogo.
Meanwhile, the Linda Mwananchi faction led by Siaya Governor James Orengo has come to the defense of the Anglican Bishop Charles Oginjo of Kisumu County over his latest sentiments against the state.
And Bishop, continue telling truth to power. Those who speak the truth are often persecuted, but you have stood so steadfast.
Elsewhere, the United Opposition leaders have called for thorough investigations into the murder of the slain parish minister, Julius Ngari Ndumia.
That there is a CCTV footage showing the people who killed Reverend Ndumia. We want to call upon the police to allow the church to release the CCTV footage.
And this has never happened before in our country, that a spiritual leader is slaughtered inside the church.
Confirmed that 2 suspects have been arrested so far in connection with the cleric's killing.
Now, a family in Matakuda village, Matungulu, Machakos County, is making a desperate appeal to save their only son's eyesight, Joel Vavinzoka. Now blind in both eyes, urgently needs a specialized surgery in India costing 2.5 million shillings. His parents say they have exhausted the resources after months of hospital visits and unsuccessful fundraisers. Our reporter Aaron Murray tells us more.
Inside this modest home in Matakuda village, hope is fading fast for the Nzoka family.
Na nikiwa Nairobi nikakuja nikaambiwa kijana amepata accident ya pikipiki na saa hii macho inaendelea mbaya na kazi yetu wakati wa COVID-19 ikakuwa mbaya, tukarudi nyumbani.
Their son Joel Vavi Nzoka can no longer see.
Kijana alikuwa anaenda kwa matanga pale. Wakati alikuwa anaenda kwa matanga akapatana na mtu akamgonga ile jicho.
Nilikuwa nafanya kazi ya boda boda, ndio nilipata accident, jicho moja ikagongwa.
What began as an eye problem in 2024 has now left him completely blind.
Iligongwa hii jicho, ikaumia hapo na sikujua.
Since then, Joel has been in and out of hospitals as doctors searched for a solution.
Na maneno inaendelea mbaya, mama anafanya Nairobi na mimi nafanya nyumbani, ile napata nanunulia kijana chakula na ile anapata napeleka mtoto hospitali.
His mother Jennifer Waeni says the family moved from one hospital to another, each visit bringing more pain, more uncertainty and rising medical bills.
Kijana kama nimetoka kidogo, akona shida ya kuenda kwa choo, akona shida ya kufua nguo, hawezi pika. Hiyo vitu yote mimi ndio naangalamia na mtengenezi hiyo vitu ndio nitoke kwa kidogo niende nifanye kazi.
Joel has been attending clinics at Lighthouse for Christ Eye Center Hospital in Mombasa, but his condition has continued to worsen.
Wakati alifanyiwa hiyo jicho ingine ilikuwa na changamoto juu alirudishwa, alifanyiwa asubuhi yake hiyo macho ilikuwa ina leak, akarudishwa theater tena.
Doctors have now recommended keratoprosthesis surgery, a specialized eye procedure to be performed in India, costing 2.5 million shillings.
Tulienda hospitali, tukaambiwa hadi tuende India, ndio hii jicho ingine ilifanyiwa operation, ikuwe at least ikuwe inaona.
For George and Jennifer Nzoka, raising such an amount is beyond reach.
Well wishers wanihurumie. At least huyu mtoto aende atengenezwe hiyo jicho moja, ndio hiyo jicho ndio inaona, hii ingine ni ya kutolewa.
Joel says losing his sight has changed everything.
Challenges niko nazo mingi. Juu kwanza siwezi jifanyia kitu. Kutembea ni shida. Hadi nifanyiwe kila kitu tu.
Daily life now depend on his parents' support.
Watu wanisaidie. Niende nifanyiwe operation. At least nikuwa ninaona tu.
Ile kitu naomba kama naweza pate watu wanisaidie, mtoto aende mahali ameitiwa hospitali, aende afanyiwe hiyo macho, mimi naweza furahia.
The Nzoka family is now appealing to Kenyans of goodwill to help them raise the funds needed for Joel's urgent surgery. Contributions can be sent through M-Pesa number 0703 674632 under the name Jennifer Waini Maingi.
And I wish Joel all the best. Now, for many Kenyans, rainfall is a blessing, bringing crops, pasture, and renewed hope. But in parts of Garissa and Tana River, the rain signals fear, displacement, and destruction. Every wet season, thousands of families living along the Tana River are forced from their homes as flood waters swallow villages, farms, and schools. Our reporter Aaron Murray brings you the story of communities trapped in a cycle of suffering where every cloud carries a warning.
The rains begin. Most farmers celebrate. But here in Garissa County, the sound of thunder means something very different. It means rushing to higher ground, carrying whatever can be saved, and preparing for another season of loss.
Mwaka juzi, mwaka jana na mwaka huu hakuna mtu amelima. Kwa hivyo shida tunaye hapa ni chakula.
For families living along the River Tana Basin, floods have become a painful annual reality.
Sisi kila mwaka maji yakikuja tuko na shida. Hatuna namna ya kujisaidia.
Shida ambayo tuko nayo ni njaa, hatuna mahema, mattresses zimeenda na maji, hatuna kitu cha kukula. Mpaka hadi dakika hii hatujui tutaelekea wapi, tunatoka wapi na tunaenda wapi.
As flood waters rose this season, more than 1,000 households in Garissa Township were displaced, with authorities warning that nearly 60,000 others remain at risk across the county.
Hali yetu ni hiyo tu ya kuhama maji, tunahama, tunatoka, maji yakikauka tunarudi huko.
Currently we only have those 3 IDP camps in Garissa County. Our teams are on the ground conducting impact assessment of the flooding in the IDP camps, and it's a multi-stakeholder assessment, and then we'll give the report, and then probably do a differentiated assistance, support the most vulnerable people.
Many are now sheltering in temporary camp at the Farmer Training Center, Huga, and Police Training College grounds. Inside a worn-out makeshift tent at the FTC camp, Mzee Isa Malio and 6 members of his family try to rebuild their lives.
Hakuna mipango maalum imefanyika ya watu kuhama. Maana kuambiwa na mtu wa serikali useme hama, unaambiwa wewe mwenyewe ukitaka hama. Sasa ile tunaona ni riski maisha ya watu.
Tuliathirika kutoka tarehe 28 ndio tuliweza kutoka na kuweza kutekeleza wajibu wa serikali, sababu tulipewa onyo na message pia ya Road Cross tulipata.
They fled their home in Ziwani after flood water swept through the village at night. Farming and charcoal burning from invasive madenge trees were their main sources of income. Now, both livelihoods have been washed away.
Na watoto wanapata shida shule, na tukienda huko juu ni shida kwa vile paka watoto wanasoma pande hii. Tuchome makaa, ununue vitabu, ununue chakula, sasa inakuwa ni shida. Kama nyenye yangu ako Mororo Primary, sasa nasikia ni mgonjwa, uwezo sina.
Next door, Khadija Swale says displacement has become a way of life. Health fears are rising, with cases of fever, diarrhea, and vomiting reported among children.
Shida yetu ingine tukihama huko, magonjwa watoto wanakuwa mengi kwa ajili ya macho, pia tuna macho. Mara mtoto ikihara, una mahali ya kutoa uweke. Wewe mwenye binafsi una mahali ya kuenda kujisaidia. Shida ndio hiyo.
In Bakuyu village, local leader says at least 200 households have been affected.
Sisi pia kama viongozi ni kuwahimiza watu wetu wenye wako huko chini waweze kupata shelter upande ya juu.
Tusimame, Mheshimiwa Senator, msichoke, Mheshimiwa Speaker, muhakikishe kwamba watu wetu wasipate shida wakati huu wa mafuriko.
Sometimes the flooding is not caused by local rainfall alone. Heavy rains upstream or controlled water releases from dams in the Seven Forks hydroelectric scheme can swell the River Tana and burst its banks downstream.
Kuna mpangilio wa kutengeza High Falls Grand Dam ambayo itashika maji. Haya maji yatakuwa hayakuji kusumbua watu, yanakuwa released in a controlled manner.
Residents says they have been advised to relocate permanently to safer areas.
Now, from a devastating drought to sudden destructive rains. And of course, climate extremes are rapidly becoming a reality in Kenya. And in parts of Machakos County, however, locals refuse to be victims of disaster The communities have now embraced locally driven climate solutions such as construction of water. And as John Cairo now reports, such initiatives, which have received support from the government and other partners, are slowly turning the burden of climate change to opportunities and hope for the communities in the region.
For years, Kenya's lower eastern region has grappled with unprecedented climate shocks from severe drought. And when the skies open, just like many other parts of the country, much of the water flows through seasonal streams and go to waste.
Huku Kambani, seasonal rivers ni mingi. Na kwa hivyo, maji mingi huwa inapita ikienda.
However, deep inside this little-known Kaliambeu village in Yatta area of Machakos County, a new chapter is unfolding, one of a community slowly rising beyond the tides of climate change.
Hii maji imetusaidia sana. Tukijua ya kwamba hii mto imekuwa ni seasonal river na imekuwa maji ikikauka. Kwa hivyo watu wa hapa tumekuwa na shida mingi sana ya maji.
The reservoir is basically to retain water or to harvest water along Mwitasiano River so that the residents of this particular area can be able to avail it. I mean, they can be able to access it for domestic use, for agriculture, and for livestock.
For the locals who walked 4 kilometers to quench their thirst, the weir is a lifeline and a relief. And for the small-scale farmers whose plants once withered, it is an oasis of hope.
Kutusaidia sana. Juu saizi unapata atungojii msimu mvua peke yake kwa kilimo. Saizi bado unaona kwenye maji kwanza inatusaidia. So unapata tunatumia maji kwa mashamba, tunapanda vitu, mifugo wanapata maji, kuku na maji.
But the war against climate shocks in Machakos County does not end here. In the Thini area of Masinga sub-county, residents are turning the burden of the scorching sun into an opportunity.
Hatukuwa tunapata maji ya kutosha huku. Hakukuwa na boreholes wala nini. Watu walikuwa wanabebana saa ile kuna ukame. Wanabebana mitungi kuenda hata Tana River na ni mbali sana. Masinga Dam ni mbali sana. Ni almost 15 kilometers kutoka mahali tuko sasa.
In the area that has long struggled with water access, solar energy is now being used to pump water from existing harvesting dams, easing access for households and sustaining lives.
The dam was of no use to the community because there wasn't mechanism to pump the water.
Damu hatuwezi tukaenda kuchota mtu kwa damu, tunaongopa ile vitu inakuwa huko ndani kama kipoko, kama nini, unaongopa uwezi ukaenda hapa kuchota, uwezi. Kuna kipoko, kuna ile kiloko dari, hizo siko huko. Tunaongopa hatuwezi tukaenda huko kuchota.
In addition to availing water for domestic use, the community-led climate action that has received a major boost from the Ministry of Finance through the Financing Locally-Led Climate Action Program has restored the greenery, boosting food security in the villages.
Tunafurahia sababu ile mimea tumepanda haikauki, tunachota maji, tunawekea, tunanyunyizia, ikikua tunaanza kuweka pesa mfukoni.
And we can see that the pump is able to lift that water 2 kilometers up to where we are now. And now this is the treatment works, and from here this water is going to be distributed to the local community members and different households. The target is that this water will be able to benefit 8,000 beneficiaries, and that is a very good number. Majority of them being women, and also now the distance to the water pointers reduced by 2 kilometers.
From capturing rainwater to harnessing solar energy, the communities in Machakos County are no longer simply enduring climate change, they're now adapting to it.
We are focusing on adaptation because you see most of these local communities are the ones who are most affected by the impact of climate change. So that is why the focus of the government is on adaptation, to build the resilience of these communities to be able to survive in terms of harsh climatic conditions.
In the face of changing climate characterized by drought and unprecedented rains, initiatives such as this remain a game changer in ensuring that communities have access to reliable water sources and are well equipped to handle future climate shocks. For Channel 1 News from Kwamasele Irrigation Weir in Machakos County, my name is John Kahiro.
Oh, thank you, John Kahiro, for that report. Now we get sporty for a moment. Kenya has unveiled its national beach volleyball squads for the upcoming 2026 CAF Continental Beach Volleyball Championship and the LA 2028 Olympic Games zonal qualifiers set for 20th to 26th this month in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. The team consists of 4 men and 4 women.
The men's team will comprise Richard Amutala, Naftali Chumba, Anthony Chimanyi, and Reagan Kepchirchir, with the quartet expected to lead Kenya's challenge against some of Africa's top-rated beach volleyball nations. In the women's category, Kenya has selected Veronica Adhiambo, Shalene Sambel, Selina Gambo, and Sharon Chepkogei to fly the national flag at the Continental Showdown and Olympic qualification campaign. The technical bench will be led by coaches Patrick Owino and Sila Makiso, alongside physiotherapist Alex Godana, referee Zinga Chalo, and team manager John Ogara. According to the federation, the selected players earned their places after impressive performances and consistent displays during training and preparations. Frederick Mwoki for Sunday Express.
You know, that's where we end our news for now on Good Morning Kenya. But before I go, just let you know that Arsenal beat West Ham 1-0. Now, if they win the remaining 2 matches, then they're guaranteed of the title, EPL. This is after 22 years of dry spell. My name is Giverson Maina, and the show continues on the other side. Victor Olo is on standby. But before that, we take a very short commercial break.
For the next big thing in tech? Well, we'll spotlight Kenya's brightest young minds, game-changing startups, and breakthrough technology that are shaping our future. From AI and robotics to sustainable futures, we bring you the stories behind the scenes. KBC Channel 1. Remember, tech starts here.
If he lives alone and something happens, there'll be no one to take him to the hospital.
How would we do it? We got 1 bedroom, a living room, and a sunroom. No matter what you do, that's it. How can we add another room?
Hi. Hi. You must be hungry. Lunch is almost ready.
Are you tired? Take a rest.
I'm fine. I mentioned to the dance club that you were coming. This is good for relaxing.
Oh yeah, from Andy Liu, a Bluetooth speaker. We use it for dancing. The sound quality is awesome.
All right, good morning. Welcome. Thank you so much for staying with us. It's 4 minutes past 7 a.m. On this 11th day of May 2026. Welcome to the program. My name is Victor Lo. I was just asking Giverson why he was not so happy given the results of Arsenal versus West Ham. I can smile about it. Arsenal beat West Ham 1-0. Okay, Giverson, I've done it for you. All right. Let's talk about the big issue in the House today. Africa Forward Summit is taking place today and tomorrow at the Kenyatta International Convention Center, where President William Ruto is playing the host, co-hosted by French President Emmanuel Macron, which is going to be taking the center stage. And a lot is going to be happening in the capital city. I'm just going to get straight into it, and we talk about it. What does it really mean for Africa? That is the big question here. The African interest groups wish to list several things when it comes to that. You know, some of the political leaders, even this country, have also trashed the same summit. And let's talk about that. What does this really mean? 11 of deals were signed yesterday. Let's talk about that as well. But before we get into that, let me introduce my guest. Let me start with Gordon Kachola, who is a foreign policy analyst. Gordon, good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
As well as Edward Wanyonyi, Umwami, researcher and analyst. Good to see you.
Good to see you, bro.
Karibu sana.
Thank you so much.
Let me start with you, Edward. It's a big day, and I think we are up to task as Kenya to host 30 heads of state and more than 3,000 delegates. Are we?
Well, from what you would call in terms of our conference diplomacy, we've hosted quite a bit of meetings from the climate summit some time back.
Yes.
You know, we've had, you know, the World Health Assembly just was hosted the other day, last week. So the WTO meetings, we've hosted quite a number of meetings. So, I mean, yes, in terms of our tourism sector, our conference sector, our delegations, that is good. But this is what we do in terms of countries organize such forums for purposes of not just the agenda of the day, but also ensuring that there's a lot of caucuses. So I am sure a lot of the engagements will not just be at KICC.
Yes.
There will be side events, there will be other meetings, there are other diplomatic engagements that are taking place. You saw yesterday with the president meeting the president of Sierra Leone, one of the agenda items was support for Judge Joaquin Dungu to the ICC. So there is more to what is just at the agenda on the day in terms of the Forward Summit. A lot of the discussions are going to be on the sidelines. And this is a give and take. You know, these are give and take. So we are going to see a lot of engagements taking place between various presidents across.
Okay. Gordon, your opening remarks, because at this particular point, Kenya is playing a very big, let's say, a big brother role in Africa. But why the choice of Kenya to host this big event, so to speak?
I think the question why was clearly answered by President Emmanuel Macron yesterday when he said President Ruto has increasingly played an important role in the conversation that shapes the global leadership. And that is why they chose Kenya. They would have chosen any other country in Africa out of the French-speaking countries, but they chose Kenya because he says President Ruto has played increasingly important role in the global leadership. And that is the reason as to why. I think so far Kenya is recalibrating, Kenya is repositioning, and Kenya is not just contributing to the global conversation, but also helping reshape the global conversation.
Yeah.
Key among them is the financial architecture, which of course even Emmanuel Macron did appreciate. And you've seen that June this year, President Ruto will be headed for the G7 summit that will be held in Europe.
Yeah.
So that clearly tells you where Kenya is and where Kenya is headed as far as diplomacy is concerned.
Very good. On the front page of the local dailies is almost the same thing. Show of might. That's on the front page of this Daily Nation. Show of might. The two gentlemen, that is French President Emmanuel and Kenya President William Ruto. This Daily Nation says that Nairobi will welcomes over 50 nations at the global talks, the first role to be held in Anglophone Africa. And it says that it's kind of a diplomatic coup where Kenya today shines on the world stage, hosting world leaders, including heads of state, the UN Secretary General, and business executives for France-Africa Summit, a gathering that highlights the convening power of France President Emmanuel Macron and his co-host William Ruto. The forum is expected to reset the continent's ties with the former colonial power and advance new economic as well as political interests. The key word, Edward, here is to reset the continent's ties with the former colonial power. That is a heavy word.
It is a heavy word, and we have to take it in context. Some time back, we saw news that a number of countries, when Ghana sponsored a motion at the UN General Assembly on the issue to do with reparations, most of these countries, the colonial powers, voted against that. So it should not be left aside from Africa to understand the context you're playing with. The flirtation with colonial powers, at whose expense and at whose cost? Remember, the U.S. Secretary of State one time during the Munich conference in Germany talked about reintroducing the empire. And so we need to look at it from a context in terms of, yes, we are celebrating and saying we want to be able to have this engagement, but are we using the same terms that came about, you know, some time back when colonialism was being introduced? You know, when the conversations around reparations is being avoided by the same powers, what is our stake? When issues to do with the World Trade Organization and the imbalance around trade are being discussed, what is the conversation about these colonial powers? China just last week opened and said zero tariff to Africa. What are colonial powers talking to us about? They're talking to us about the IMF conditionalities. They're talking to us about the loan. And they're avoiding the main conversation on the table around a fair balancing and a fair playing ground. So we need to be able to ask ourselves, as we court them and as we engage with them, are we also putting hard questions to them? That, for me, will be an interesting conversation.
Because when you look at Africa, basically, Africa, we depend more on Europe,
but
right?
they depend on us and our resources. Where is the extraction coming from? Where are the natural resources coming from? France is not here because of a goodwill. I mean, look at it. We need to be able to put France on the question in terms of why is it that in West Africa, Northern African countries, they are being told, you know what, exit. So when you're when someone who owes you land and resources, and your neighbor tells them that they cannot be able to cross through that path, and they say they want to be able to get a bit of your path, your land to cross, are they coming out of goodwill? We need to ask ourselves hard questions. So I think for me, the context here is that we need to have, this is a different conversation than what happened in Berlin. Right now it's 2026. We need to put some hard questions on the table. Maybe at Berlin we did have the right kind of representatives, and actually we didn't have any. They met, they petitioned.
Yes.
Right now, on our ground, on our land, we need to have some hard conversations. That, for me, is what we need to be able to be framing that conversation towards.
Great. But I mean, the colonial powers probably are just scratching their heads when they see France having a very keen eye on Africa. I will come to the question of when you look at China. We have been very good friends and, you know, America and all that. But when you see Africa being, or France quoting Africa in general and choosing Kenya, the colonial powers must be asking themselves whether they should also find their means and ways and reset. But France is taking the reset button faster than them.
Victor, we must appreciate the fact that the so-called colonial masters are no longer colonial masters. Today you are either a colony to yourself or you imprison yourself. No one can imprison you. Why am I saying so? It is about interest. And you look at the headline of the Daily Nation, to me it would have been, it's not even a show of might, it's interest at play. Because France is not coming here to get nothing. It's not coming to Africa to get nothing. Africa is not going to France to get nothing. Everyone there's a stake for each and everyone who is going into this. So when negotiating, and this is where I've always stuck my neck out, whenever we go for negotiations, who are we sending to negotiate for us? And what do we want out of these negotiations? We all know, without Africa, the entire world production, in whatever form and whatever you want to call it, be it in the electronics, be it in agriculture, whatever you want to call it, there is nothing that the other world has that Africa is not having. It is only Africa that the entire global arable land, Africa has 60 to 63% arable land is in Africa. Why are we importing food? And those are the conversations we must have. Who can begin to invest if we don't have the capacity to invest in ourselves so that we can produce enough for us and to export? Who has the capacity to come and build that capacity in us, not to give us, but to build that capacity in us so that we can also begin to be producers? If it is about mineral resources, we have almost what it takes to take us from what we are in now to pure green energy. are we negotiating correctly? That is where all African nations must look into.
Okay. Dr. Evelyn Oginda, karibu sana.
Thank you.
You must have found it so hard accessing here.
Yeah, of course. I've really done a lot of walking, but I'm fine.
You need to do more. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
How is this for, again, to Wanjiku, there's that person watching out there, they really need to understand how important this summit is, because even us accessing this place was a bit of a problem. But what should be running in the minds of Wanjiku, because the summit is coming here, 30 heads of state, delegations from across the continent, some of them are even from Europe and all that. But what is running through the minds of Wanjiku?
I think what is running through the mind, and you see, Kenya, we are a way of passing information from an elite side of view. Because, you know, I would say Wanjiku is actually confused. They're only seeing white people coming here, and then they're striking a deal. You know, they're used to this thing, deal. Yeah. And the elite, they are not finding, or those closely involved into the summit arrangement and stuff, they are not breaking this to the normal understanding, because you'd ask, you know, Wanjiku would ask herself, so what? We are the forward summit, so what? Because I think they are confused. They are only seeing that there are deals that are taking place, but they really don't understand how it trickles down to them. How is it going to answer the questions? If you ask me in a simple term, instead of us maybe magnifying or looking at this thing in so broad way, first and foremost, I would like to say that Kenya is at least a country of interest in Africa. We should feel so proud for it, for the summit to come and be hosted here in this country. So it means, in the real sense, we are already earning some income. You know, 30 heads of state is not a walk in the park. There are so many. Yeah. We are already earning some kind of foreign income. And then when it comes to the real problems of this country, I think the first problem that we have is the joblessness of the young people in this country. And you see, teach me how to fish. Don't give me the fish. Teach me how to fish. Is this in the summit, in whatever way they want to talk about them? You know, there's this abstract way of saying, we will do this, come up with industries. What have we done in terms of making it very affordable for the foreign investor to come and invest our country? What laws have we put in place? What policies are driving these new investors in our country? How are we making sure as a country that the young people are captured in terms of job opportunities? How are you going to explain, Mama Mboga, what is happening? So what when they come? So what? What is it? And the people in Europe, is it that they are a charity organization? Of course, it's a no. Are you careful in that discussion, in that we are not going to throw our towel in and they throw theirs halfway in? Because are they gaining from us? Are we gaining from each other? What is this arrangement that is, according to me, the glaring part? What should focus in this summit is the joblessness in this country. We have a lot of manpower. We have engineers. We have people who have gone to school. Young people have graduated. How is it first going to solve this issue of joblessness? How are we going to even have global borrowing? How are we going, even like in the African countries, everybody is using their own currency. How can we break the language barrier? How can we break all these barriers to solve real-time, to find real-time solutions to what is ailing the Kenyans specifically? Yeah.
And it seems that it's going to make a shift from aid to partnership, from the traditional donor recipient.
It's not a charity thing. According to me, if it can be a charity thing, and then that is looking down upon us. Yeah. Especially now that we're heading to Singapore. Are you seeing?
Okay. When you look at the whole context, this is one of the critical aspects that this summit tries to achieve or to solve. To make that shift from aid for us to become more partners, so that we don't depend so much on our donors and all that. Is it going to achieve that?
It is going to be a very lonely walk for us to be able to get to a place of actualization on the partnership. Why do I say so? Because this is not the first kind of summit. Japan has an Africa summit. Turkey has Africa summit. If you look at China, it has an ambitious Africa summit that actually you can see the dividends that China puts on the table. So my question is always around the challenge with the European powers when they are framing the African summit, that it's hot air at the surface, fluff, pictures, all this nice organization and talk about, partnership and changing the compact. But when it comes to actualization, like for example, we've been having all these meetings around the COP series, the climate change conversations. But when it comes for them to actually look at the kind of commitment they need to follow through, there's always a lot of lagging behind in terms of their commitments to African countries. So even if you look at any other conversation that is happening, especially with the European partners, follow through is a big problem. And when we are asking, for example, even the European partners to support, for example, Africa's quest at the UN Security Council, for example, if we want to have a permanent seat, they are the ones, some of the people who normally block. You know, when we are asking that we need our debts reorganized and restructured, they sit at the World Bank and the IMF body, but they're not opening up their markets. So we need to ask ourselves, are these just photo ops? Or are they, engagements that we're having to excite people, but at the end of the day, when it comes to opening up the markets, right now, Victor, if you want to go to Europe or any other European country, you're going to have a long list of around 21 requirements. But when they're coming here, they'll just get their visa at the airport. Why are we not having that conversation? They're asking you to give them a bond, for heaven's sake. They're asking you to give them a bank statement, for heaven's sake. We are not asking them that. Our foreign affairs ministries are not asking them that. They're giving them visas on arrival. How many countries in Europe are giving Africans visas on arrival? Then they will flip it back to us and tell us it's an immigration crisis. But when they're coming to take our minerals...
There is no immigration crisis.
There is no immigration crisis. When they're coming in here, we are calling them investors. We need to ask ourselves about that framing. That language is very problematic because it doesn't put the hard questions on the table. And there's always a
Is someone trying to play safe?
They're not playing safe. They're playing on their interests, as my colleagues have said. They're playing on their interests. They're playing hardball on their interests. We, on the other hand, we are saying, open up, please come. You are investors. We are not calling them extractors. We are not calling them to order and asking them hard questions. And there is always a conversation that I think Julius Malema has always made up and said, the Europe should not think that they're dealing with our forefathers who allowed and entertained them to come. They're dealing with a different generation. I hope that this is a generation which will put hard questions on the table. Because you can tell me about Africa Forward, but if you're not allowing me to get to Europe, to access Europe and those markets, and you're putting lots of restrictions, then I'm having a conversation around the partnership.
Gordon, it seems that we are approaching this with baby gloves. No hard questions are put to task because clearly it's more of interest. But then the hard ball, for how long is it going to be played?
Victor, I like what Edward has put across as far as are we having our best foot forward? I think for the longest, Africa has never put its best foot forward, save for a few countries. And it is time. You see, in a conversation like this we are going to have for the next 2 days here in Kenya, these are very serious conversations that we should press hard on some of these countries. And how do we press hard? We press hard not by making noise, but in those boardrooms where negotiations take place. One, you must have the best people to negotiate for you. How do you get best people to negotiate for you? You must have best trained to negotiate, best diplomats, best foot forward. You must put your best soldiers in the front line to fight your battles. After that, then now, after you've negotiated, then you communicate what you've negotiated properly to the people. And that is one thing I've always said. There is lack of efficient communication from the government side on some of its doing and dealings. Because For how long have we even had a conversation about the Forward Summit, Africa Forward Summit? Every station, every other channel is rushing to have that conversation now. This is a conversation that ought to have begun nearly a month, 2 months ago. Putting questions to the ministry of every ministry, because we've already had, we've already signed a deal between the Kenyan Defense Ministry and French Defense Ministry. Have we been putting questions as media houses to the relevant authorities as far as this is concerned? If the government can't come out and clearly communicate what some of the things they've done, which some of the things look really great, then it's upon now the media industry to come out and press hard questions to some of these people. You realize, for example, I like what Dr. did mention initially, that there is this gap about job opportunities in Kenya. It is true. It is not just in Kenya. It is an African problem, an African challenge. If France is going to invest nearly 10 billion in just one sector, which is transport, to ensure that our metropolis is well networked as far as train service is concerned, the train that will be operating in Nairobi alone and its environs will bring in and out of Nairobi nearly 30,000 people between 1 and 2 hours. You can imagine what that means. So we must begin to nurture true diplomats who are going to fight for our countries. You don't need to pick some riffraffs to go and represent us. I'm not saying that is what is happening. But again, looking broadly, sometimes it's an African challenge. So it is upon the African leadership not just to look at how are we going to benefit from the Europeans and the Americans and the Chinese and all that. It is also upon us to check how are we going to do trade within ourselves. It is at this summit that the president must again begin to press so hard on African countries that we remove this visa nonsense among African states. Because look, trade among Africans is only at 15%. Intra-Africa trade stands at 15%. Inter-European trade stands at 65%. So meaning we don't even trade within ourselves. Why are we not trading within ourselves? Because we do not have the clear infrastructure to trade.
Okay, Dr. Ray, let's before we take a break, we've had so many summits. You know, very soon, probably, the Bomas of Kenya will hold another summit. But the real question is the actualization of these summits. And I still ask a question, the implementation bit of it. A lot of paperwork will be done, signatures will be put, and you know, and all that, and the optics. But the real implementation and follow-ups is where the challenge is.
It's not even Victor. It's not even just leave alone the implementation part. What is the agenda of the summit? When you are going to hold a summit, first, do we understand what the agenda is? Because when you understand what the agenda is from the objectives after the summit, then you can realize what have you realized out of this? What have you achieved? What are the barriers of achieving the other objectives that you had put in place? Do we really understand, and who are these negotiators? Are we having a summit whereby we have quote unquote, let's say I have my business needing it, so I have to make it like a national issue. I have to make it a national issue when I'm inviting these people and we are coming out on a personal interest. Are we having Kenyans in mind? Are we having the real problems of Kenyans, so that when you're coming up with these summits and then you're able to tell Kenyans 1, 2, 3 objectives have been achieved, 3, 4 has not been achieved because of these barriers, but this is how to mitigate through the barriers. Do we have that in mind before we start saying the implementation? What are we implementing when you don't know what the agenda is? You know, when you say deal, what is a deal? What is a deal? This needs to be broken down for Wanjiku to understand.
That's basically what Gordon has said, communication.
What is, okay, we're having the summit and we are so proud and we're already making money and we are only seeing the Europeans, they are coming in. And then you see now in our country, just to add on what Edward said, you know, us when we are getting our visitors from Europe, from other states, we happen to be criminalized. Yani, you are just a criminal. Don't pass here, don't pass here. Do you have a letter? Do you have what? What is all that? Why are we having a colonial mindset, and we are really saying no to colonialism. What is wrong with a visitor of another color coming to our country? Why do I become a criminal all of a sudden? You are bag, you are what? No, you are not. You have to walk. Are we going to really welcome this idea next time because you'll make me walk a long distance, leave my car wherever place, and then why are we criminalizing ourselves? What is wrong with visitors coming in for a summit?
Yeah.
Why is it that we cannot have order? These people going this side, just use this lane. It's okay.
Okay.
We are trying to, but why are we having a colonial mindset that the police are having to stop you, check your mind? All of a sudden you're a criminal because visitors are coming in our country. That is a colonial mindset that should end. Number two, like also he said, when we are going to Europe or other, maybe US or anything, bank statement, who are you going to stay with, give the direction, give the what. Those are the small things that break who we are. They don't bring out that we are out of the colonial time, and now we are in this regime. We are in it as partners.
Let's take a break.
We are not in as vulnerables who need help or charity.
Okay, it's 7:30. Let's take a break. When we come back, let's talk about the diplomatic and strategic leadership, whatever is going to change out of that. We also have business deals that's being signed and so much more. And by the way, somebody is watching. The big brother probably is watching somewhere because this summit, 38 of state and 3,000 delegates. Somebody is watching, right, Edward?
Over 600 CEOs.
Exactly. Someone is watching somewhere. What are they saying? Much more when we come back. Stay with us.
Got the fear of missing out? Want to keep up with all the latest entertainment news and latest celebrity gossip? From the latest rumors to popping events to the newest fashion trends, here is where you get all the tea or juice when it comes to entertainment, and you get it served on time. All that and so much more on Grapevine every single Monday from 10 p.m. and a rerun every Tuesday from 2 p.m. only on KBC Channel 1. Remember, if you did not see it on Grapevine, then it most probably never happened.
In a world where news is ever-changing, staying informed is more important than ever.
Join us every week on News Check, your go-to show for the latest in current affairs, breaking news and in-depth analysis.
A warm welcome to KBC News Check.
From politics to global events, we bring you content that matter to you.
We're not just speaking about the governance and how we want to see it, but want to actually participate.
Get your facts, hear from the experts, and really understand what is happening around you.
We need to change our system first. You have to do the impossible to make sure the message is home.
Stay ahead, stay informed, stay engaged.
Will these people, everybody agree?
Just listen to me.
Let's give him a chance to clear the air.
Catch News Check every Tuesday and Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Only on KBC Channel 1.
All right, welcome back. Staying with us, Edward Wanyonyi is here with us, and Dr. Evelyn Ogendo and Gordon Kachola. Now, let's come back to the conversation. Edward, I asked a question before we took a break. The diplomatic and strategic leadership that is being described through this summit alone. Please take me through that.
Well, the idea here is that to repackage the French and the European conversation in Africa differently. I think because of the beating they have had in West Africa and North Africa, France wants to introduce itself.
Yes.
But also there's a conversation around also the whole dynamic to do with Africans who are in France, who make quite a big population, and the dynamics that actually look at French and engagement with the world. Because really, if you remove Africa from France, what remains? You tell me. You've seen their football team. when you remove Africa from France, what remains? So, you know, if you look at the colonial legacy and the kind of organization and deals and partnerships and conversations around even the CFA that is actually running across most of the West African and French colonies, former French colonies, what remains of France? So I think France has looked forward. They have seen the conversation in terms of where the world is going, and they need to go back and re-engage itself with Africa. And so this conversation at the moment is about reintroducing France to Africa. And who is better placed than an Anglophone country? You know, who is better placed? A neutral player should be able to be put there. So that is at that level in terms of, you know, looking at new partners, new players within the France-Africa trade. You know, it's just the same way we had with Britain when, you know, Brexit happened. Britain had to come back and look at its former colonies and say, you know what, how are we going to play ourselves here? How do we sustain our primary industries and our primary engagements? So that is there. However, on Africa now to France, is you able to look at the conversations around the primary trade arrangement and pacts that are there, and what Africa actually exports to France, and what kind of, you know, alignments they can have. And for me, what is important we are missing here is we have UNECA, we have the Africa Free Continental Trade Area and arrangement that is there. What are we looking at that as a strategic pivot for our trade? The balance of trade from what we are having and tending to France, what are we getting out of it? How is the import-export tariff arrangement? You know, China has said, you know, tariff-free. Can France say that? Can they really say that? Can they look at our eyes and say that? Can they look at our eyes and say, you know what, the same way we have a reciprocal deal with South Africa where we are doing, you know, 3 months visa-free. Can France offer that to Africa?
You know, it's not the first time that France is having a deal with Kenya.
It's not.
It's not the first time. The Rironi Summit?
It did go through. It did go through because of fundamental aspects to do with how it was structured. And you need to tell me how many roads and highway projects France has done in any African country, end to end. You know, you need to look at it and realize, and this is one of the things which, you know, my colleague was speaking about, that when we're going towards restructuring some of these arrangements, we need to be able to ask ourselves hard questions. Do European countries, are they best placed when it comes to infrastructure projects? Or are they best placed when you're looking at industrial engagements? Are we looking at in terms of labor engagements, in terms of skill development? And then we say, when it comes to infrastructure, we look at other partners, you know, because we have to ask ourselves, when you start a negotiation, and then in between, it is highly inflated to benefit that investor to the detriment of the person who is here, and you're calling that public-private partnership, then, I mean, again, Gordon said, are we having the best players in the room? So those are the dynamics we need to be able to ask ourselves in terms of when we're engaging with France. And I would be interested to see what practical French companies are actually setting base, and how much are we actually opening up that market in terms of our trade arrangement, in terms of export and the balance there to France, so that we can be able to see if there is a balance here or actually it's just hot air.
Gordon, it's the geopolitical pivot. Someone is trying to hijack, or not someone trying to hijack. When you look at that, the signal, the diplomacy towards Anglophone Africa, when you look at Kenya, South Africa, and Nigeria, and that shift, you know, we talked about the colonial masters, but now having that warm kind of environment and, you know, environment between France and now Kenya is here. Of course, we've had several deals even in the past. We are yet to see some of the whether it is happening and all that. But the geopolitical pivot that is going to be happening moving forward, what do you make of that?
Well, Victor, you come from a village. Allow me give this analogy. You come from a village. In the village, you have your own issues. This person may not be talking to that person, and the intricacies of a village.
Right.
But when you realize that you have two old friends who you're no longer talked well, what do? Do you stop there and coil back and say, okay, because we no longer talk well, we can only say hi, hi, and we pass one another. You coil back? No. You begin to look for new friends automatically, because you need to survive in a village. You need to get salt when you don't have it. You need to borrow maybe matchstick when it rains and you don't have your matchstick that day, matchbox. So that is what definitely France is doing. And who is best positioned diplomatically to do this in Africa? It is only Kenya.
Because are we neutral?
Why Kenya? Kenya is, we are blessed because of our geographical location, number one. Two, we've become a gateway and an economical hub. Not just gateway and economical, but also a diplomatic hub for the entire continent. Remember, it is only in the entire sub-Sahara, or not sub-Sahara, but the entire global south. It's only Kenya with a UN headquarter. It's only Kenya that has been having a lead in terms of reshaping the global conversation. One of the major global conversations we have today is a relook into the financial architecture. And who has been very bold and vocal about this? It is Kenya. Then you must look for someone who can also call people to order. Who can call people to order in Africa today? Diplomatically, it is Kenya. Kenya is viewed as the beacon of peace, a beacon of hope for Africa. But that notwithstanding, what does this summit really mean to this administration? It is not just a diplomatic gathering. To the Ruto administration and Kenya, this serves as an opportunity to begin having new or fresh investments, to relook into our past and possible future, and also explore, because we do not have the necessary tools and the technology to explore. Today, Kenya could be having minerals that we do not know. How do we get to know that we have some of these things? How do we get to know, how do we get to produce for ourselves? We are talking about, Kenya generally has been in the forefront, championing for climate change and all that. Paris has been in the forefront, championing for climate change and all that. Climate financing is a big thing today. How are we going to get into it if we don't have partners? To me, this is a partnership kind of conference where we come together, we begin to speak. What do you have for us? What can we offer? What can you offer? It's give and take. In diplomacy, it can't be a one-way thing.
But what are we known for? You know, in business, you have to be known for something.
Well, we are known for greens in exportation. At least we export a lot of coffee, a lot of tea. Kenya is now getting into the French beans exportation. And yes, so we are beginning to export. And one of the things that we must begin to talk about with clarity is the tariffs that are there. In terms of business, where can we get a reprieve? Because if you go to Europe, there's what we call the phytosanitaries. There are so many bureaucracies and hurdles that it becomes nearly impossible for you, a common farmer in Kanyadiang, to export your, because they say you need not to use this, you need not to use this, you need not to do this. All these phytosanitary agreements, some of them were way put there before even some of us existed. They need to be at least re-looked into so that we all sit on the table as equals. Yes.
But then, Doctor, when you look at it, all of them are aware. The players, as he said, the players in the room. Do we have best players in the room? But even that, we have players in the room either way. Are they aware of some of these value chains that we have?
I don't know how, even us saying we have the correct players, I'm not sure that we are correct or wrong. I think we leave it open. These players, do they have the issues? yani, in our country, are they able to represent us by who we are truly and our challenges? That's the big question. And who are these players? Anyway, who are they? Who are they? We know we are being represented. I don't know how somebody comes up. I don't know that it's hand-picking. I don't know what makes, let's say, for example, I'm there. I don't know, what did you consider when you decided let Ogendo be on that in that summit, in the negotiating list? And what are we negotiating for? You see, I think we have with smaller gaps. You know, when you are learning, when you are doing the baby steps, and then when you are on the baby steps, and then they have not been held. You're not fluent in walking. And then somebody expects you to run. What am I saying? I'm saying we don't handle the small issues with the importance it deserves. Yeah. Because when our kid, when you are learning your baby steps, and you realize now, like maybe you're always in diapers and you are learning the baby steps. Sometimes you find your kid is bow-legged.
Why are you referring to this one?
What I'm referring to, there are small pertinent issues that we don't take care of. Very small. Yeah. Very small, like what we were saying about the colonial perception. I think we are rushing into the summit. Of course, it's okay. It's by all means, it's a very productive initiative, especially for us as a country in Kenya. So what I'm saying is there are these small issues like the visas. How do we attain our visas? There are these small issues when we are welcoming our guests, when they are coming, our foreign investors. Why are we looking so vulnerable? Why are we not comfortable under our own skin? Because if you are not comfortable under your own skin, even trying to bring out what should be solved is going to be a tall order, because you expect that a summit should come up and we discuss, of course, high investment portfolios like big things. Have we really conversed with what Europe can offer is not what another state can offer. What the partnership we can want from them. Have we first done this in investigations and analysis? But you cannot come to me. You want to partner with me in maize supply when I'm not a farmer. Yeah. When I'm not a farmer, or maybe I'm from another county whereby the soil does not allow for the maize. I think we have small things that we have not taken care of, and I wish this summit can solve it. Can solve the visa issue. Why we are being asked for so many things to go to Europe. Okay. And then when we are welcoming them here, the people who are negotiating on behalf of Kenyans, can we know who they are so that even before the summit takes off, we can have a collaboration like we are having a conversation. Yeah. Like what can we tell them? They are good in this. We join ideas and then agree. You talk about this, you talk about this, you talk about this, so that in one sitting we have solved our problems.
Doctor, that's what we call serikali.
So that's what and it's a humble request.
Okay. Edward, look at this way. Putting Africa in global, that position, global influence, where we are able to have a discussion, I don't even like the G7 summit coming up so soon. Is it giving us a head start that, as Africa, we are mature enough, we can have a conversation, and you must also listen to us, because when you come together, 30 heads of state meeting in the same venue, then you have a strong voice.
The ideal approach to this is you are able to work with the regional economic communities, so your EAC, your SADC, your ECOWAS, your ECAS, to create an agenda that then from there it is shaped to go to the African Union. We have commissions, and those various commissioners should be able to shape that agenda and say this is the African position on a particular issue. Then it becomes easier for now us to represent that to the world. That's why you see we would have an AU commissioner or an ambassador for AU to New York to the UN, for example, and we should have our diplomats in that space so that then they articulate the African position. But where is the challenge? The challenge is that among many African countries, they still have their agenda shaped to suit the colonizer, shaped to suit the oppressor, shaped to suit the external. So in that way, the interests of the common citizen is not shaped and influenced and packaged within that conversation. So we will go into those meetings, but there are those people who will actually be playing towards status quo and bowing to them and saying, it's okay, whatever you can do. Gordon talked about the issue to do with the market access, And you should be able to look at it and ask yourself, why is it in 2026, this year of the Lord, we are still selling raw materials? And we are not ashamed of it. Yet for them, they will bring to us processed. Why are we not talking to them to have processing farms and processing units here? Because it means that the value of the tea and the value of the sugar will actually double up and help our mothers, our farmers back in the village better. But we are still here talking about sending in the raw format. I think the only thing we should send to them in the raw format is flowers.
Yeah.
For their Valentines and everything. But everything else, we should be able to have it in a processed format. You see, we should have it in a processed format so that we can have the economics of scale.
Yeah.
Because if coffee lives here in its raw format, at the end of the day, when it lands to Starbucks in Europe, in Berlin, you know, in Frankfurt, it is going to fetch more value to that person who is going to process it. So that is where we are dropping the ball. That one, some of our foreign affairs diplomats and interlocutors still privilege the agenda of the external. Number two, we've not built the capacity of our negotiators very well. And number three, also, we're coming in with a very inferior approach to global trade. We are not playing at scale. These projects that you're seeing here, for example, China is doing, are proof of concept. They are not necessarily considered as road infrastructure projects. Because road infrastructure projects, you should be talking about 3,500 kilometers and above, not 170 kilometers. What is that? Are we serious with ourselves? Why are we playing so small? We are talking about hydro generation should be at high levels. Wind farms that are actually doing close to 5,000 megawatts. Not what we are doing here, a wind farm that will do maybe, 500 megawatts, and you're saying that is a project. We are playing so small in an environment whereby the external understands the need for playing big. And they will come in and put that agenda.
Okay.
We don't have accounting.
I ask a question. Somebody's probably watching, Big Brother, watching this summit happening.
Yes.
And they have got intelligence.
They would have, and they will actually have. The question for me is, are we taking these lessons and going to negotiate for a next phase of AGOA differently?
Yes.
Are we going to negotiate differently with that? Are we going to use it to our advantage? World Cup is coming. It's going to be hosted by the Big Brother. What kind of strategic gains in terms of our sport economy are we going to actually get from that? Are we talking about sending funds to, the US during the World Cup? And yet, instead of us looking at how can we be able to support our sporting fraternity, our sporting industry, create more stadiums, one stadium can actually create a lot of opportunities for our young people. Just one stadium that is done at global standards. So are we negotiating in that kind of conversation? So I think, as Gordon said, we should not be running towards hosting. We should be running towards planning before we host. And if we plan better, this kind of engagements, we can have few of them, but they will be very strategic. But right now we're having excitement of having how many numbers we are going to have. But then, after that, silence.
Now, that's the next question I wanted to ask, because do we usually have a follow-up? Gordon, do we usually have a follow-up? Because even after this, there's going to be a declaration, Victor, after the summit.
Number one, you mentioned something very crucial just a few minutes ago. Actually, world politics is run on espionage. So espionage is everywhere. Anyone who is interested in running world politics and world affairs must invest heavily in espionage. The spies are all over. Even in your own house, you could be having a spy. You remember the other time Murkomen said, we know where you are sleeping, and even who you are sleeping with. So you never know. So Big Brother could be, Uncle Sam could be watching, yes. Not could be, or definitely is there. We have, for example, FOCAC, the FOCAC, which is the China-Africa Summit, coming up sometime this year. Do you know how many pre-summit events are already being held in China? This time around it is themed people to people. How many pre-summit events are being held in China? The kind of preparation they are hearing from people. You see, the bottom-up approach that was sloganeered during the campaigns, we need to see it right inside such things. Because before such things happen, the line ministries should go down to the people. You saw the other time, Ministry of, it was the Interior Ministry, running from county to county, collecting views from as low as the clan elder, the assistant chiefs, the chiefs. So when they're coming up with a policy, they're coming up with a policy that is a true bottom-up policy. It was so sad last time when, during the validation exercise of session of paper number 1, foreign policy session of paper number 1 of 2025, at the validation exercise, then not the drafters, but the technocrats who are leading this from the ministry are saying, we need to take this to the people. So meaning it did not come from the people. It is time that we really entrench the bottom-up approach to every aspect we are taking. If it is the summit like this one, do Kenyans know about it? What are they saying about it? Today, if you go to your village and tell them about the African Forward Summit, can they explain to you? Do they even know what is happening? I think that aside, moving forward into the future, where are we as Africa? Where are we as Kenya? I think Africa again needs to begin to negotiate, not as individuals. Yes, we have individual state interests, but there is power in numbers. Today, if 35 African states, heads of states and governments in Kenya, tell President Emmanuel Macron that from today onwards, we have decided that there will be no French national coming to Africa with a visa, only if we are coming to France without a visa. If we are still coming to France with a visa, then no entry for anybody from France.
You talked about interests.
Yes.
You talked about interests.
Exactly. So you begin to put your best foot forward and you talk in unison. There is power in collective voice, not a single voice. Because if you talk as Kenya, they will simply go to Uganda and talk with Uganda. But if you talk with a collective voice, then it means even your mineral resources, there is one rule and law that cuts across Africa. So it doesn't matter where they run to, where the investor runs to. They know if I have to go to Africa, there is just one particular law I will have to deal with across the continent.
Okay. Are we in some warm corner when it comes to such kind of relationships, Dr. Are we enjoying the warm corner office in the global platform?
I don't think we are really very conversant with our space when it comes to the global face. According to me, we are at a grasping stage. If you ask me, we are grasping. We are just in between. And what from Godona said, the keyword pre-summit. Do you know the pre-summit conversation? It is way too important than even the summit itself. Yeah, because you know you are welcoming people here. You have not strategically.
It's like public participation.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Correct. It's like public participation. If you ask me, the pre-anything, you see even weddings, people when they're doing weddings, what makes the wedding successful? It is the pre-wedding. Did we have such a scenario of the pre-summit conversation? Did we have such kind of collaboration? It's a no. Then I do not want to be a prophet of doom. I don't want to be pessimistic or an enemy of progress at this point in time. But I like to say these are the things that we overlook. I don't know, I'm saying we from which side because I'm not in government, but as a country, we overlook such kind of initiatives like the pre-summit. When you have a pre-anything, it means you are preparing for the main event that will be dependent on your conversations in the pre-event. Now, we do not have a pre-event. I don't know of any. Maybe it took place without maybe the public knowledge. And then from there, even as we have a conversation about the Africa Forward Summit, then we can be able to say, what are they going to discuss about this? What they are, so that when one person talks about let's say, for example, like me, I'm so passionate about the young people. There are a lot of energy that is outside here that is underutilized, that is turning that positive, positive energy to negative energy because of the challenges they are facing of joblessness in this country. Why are we not giving it a priority? Like, why are we not giving this manpower a priority? Because we are ever gracing big graduations. These kids are frustrated, but now we'll talk about we'll talk about other things that are not really answering these questions directly, so that when we say we are at this France and Africa Forward Summit, and then it solved this problem. You know, however much we can have 100 problems, but if such a summit can just solve one, can solve one and end to end, then that one can make more sense.
Let's take a break. I want to break the rule. Look at your camera and say, let's take a break, we'll be right back. Doctor, you've been here for far too long.
Oh.
That is camera.
Now let's take a break.
No, this is your camera.
Soon. Where am I talking?
This one, here.
Let's take a break. You are training me a new job, Victor.
All right, we'll be back. Stay with us.
In a world where news is ever changing, staying informed is more important than ever.
Join us every week on News Check, your go-to show for the latest in current affairs, breaking news and in-depth analysis.
A warm welcome to KBC News Check.
From politics to global events, we bring you content that matter to you.
We're not just speaking about the governance and how we want to see it, but want to actually participate.
Get your facts, hear from the experts, and really understand what is happening around you.
We need to change our system first. You have to do the impossible to make sure the message is home.
Stay ahead, stay informed, stay engaged.
Will these people, everybody agree?
Just listen to me.
Let's give him a chance to clear the air.
Catch News Check every Tuesday and Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Only on KBC Channel 1.
If he lives alone and something happens, there'll be no one to take him to the hospital.
How would we do it? We got one bedroom, a living room, and a sunroom. No matter what you do, that's it. How can we add another room?
Hi. Hi. You must be hungry. Lunch is almost ready.
Great. Are you tired? Take a rest.
I'm fine. I mentioned to the dance club that you were coming. This is good for relaxing.
Oh yeah, from Andy Liu, a Bluetooth speaker. We use it for dancing. The sound quality is awesome.
All right, thank you for staying with us. Now, we are now descending. We are almost landing. Now, Edward, so are you looking forward to specific investment opportunities probably at the end of the summit and the policy outcomes discussed?
It will be a first if it comes out. The nature of these summits has been that they are done, and then after that, we move on to the excitement of the next summit. We don't follow through. If you ask me, you know, the last summit we had, the Africa Climate Summit we had here, you know, what are the kind of outcomes that have come? I mean, besides, we have seen a number of our young people hugging trees, which is okay, but what tangible has come out of these things? So we are always chasing the next. We are always like on a high. And someone has sold to Africa the lie that if you have this global event with the elite coming and they benefit the local hotel economy, then you have achieved, which is unfortunate. In Europe, on converse, if you have a meeting there, you will actually see the outcome document will be taken either to cabinet, it will be taken to the legislation for implementation, practical implementation. Remember, you implement whatever you've discussed through the law. So it will actually be taken, discussed, put in law, and actually implementation follows up. And it will be tasked to a particular agency to follow through. Here, what happens is that it hangs somewhere. The ministry that is required, either the kind of the Ministry of Trade or the kind of Ministry of Agriculture or whatever interministerial task force that is right now shaping this, we'll just float on it. And remember, we are going towards an election year. So actually, even the impetus for implementation is going to be a bit
the
of a
focus will be
challenge.
somewhere else.
So that's the question. So when you ask me that question, whether we are going to have any issues to do with implementation, I'm like, based on past research, past performance, I'm a bit skeptical. I'll want to be challenged. Maybe we come next year at such a time and we see if we can be able to do an evaluation and see whether out of the many resolutions we're going to have. And we like these things, you know, communiques, resolutions, declarations. How many actually have? The other day, I was just looking and reflecting in the Africa Union 2017. We had a very interesting campaign called, you know, the Year of Anti-Corruption in Africa. And if you ask me right now, in 2026, how many countries have made progress around corruption in Africa? It's a problem. The other day, we were just talking about silencing the guns. But look at what is happening in Eastern Congo.
Yes.
You know, the guns are still more and more louder. So the question for me is that maybe we need to change our focus in terms of whether there will be implementation. Maybe we need to ask ourselves, what is this summit going to challenge us? And one of the things that we are saying in this, we need to ask ourselves, who are the kind of people we are putting in these conversations? And what are the kind of hard questions we are having? I would wish that we don't go with 18 agenda items. We just go with even 3 and say we are going to play hardball on these ones. It's going to be a give or take. And we just stick to achieving 3. Rather than each African country that is coming here thinking that they will have their agenda in and we'll have 30 of them, for example, and we're not going to achieve any. So it's not about the number of people. The basketball team with 5 players still achieves much, even than the football team with 11. It's not about the number of players and agenda items. It's still about how you're playing better.
Which team do you support?
In which sport?
Generally. When you talk about football,
okay, in terms of football.
I know which team you support. Okay, gentlemen and lady, I want us to close this and close over to my colleague, Bernard Okumu, who is in not so far away from here, the University of Nairobi. Part of the discussion is actually about the summit. Bernard Okumu, if you can hear me, I know the whole conversation today is going to be about business and all that, but we've been cracking some of the, you know, behind the scenes, what should be happening. Please just take us through what's happening at the University of Nairobi and as we head to KICC later in the day.
Yes, thank you so much, Victor Lowe at the Broadcasting House. And as you have rightly put, we are at the Africa Forward Summit, Africa-France Partnerships and Growth Summit that's happening here in Nairobi for the 2 days. It is a 2-day event that definitely will culminate tomorrow, but it is an event that will be characterized by a number of activities and events, with day 1 being segmented or set aside for the civil society, business leaders, youth and culture. And as you can see, it's all, everybody is meeting today. All the deliberations and the delegations, everybody is involved. Then day 2 will be a highly diplomatic event where we'll be having over 20 heads of state and the government who've confirmed their participation in this particular event will be tackling various issues that affect this particular continent. Remember, it will be also, you know, African leaders, them who are. They'll be talking about what really pains this particular continent and how better they can move forward. You know, and African countries, definitely, you could be asking why Kenya, why this particular event is happening in Kenya, and this definitely looks like and sounds like it is a collective agreement, a collective decision that was reached by the African countries that will be participating.
All right. Okay. Bernard Okumu, they're reporting from the University of Nairobi. We expect head of state to have that open forum with the members of the public and even some of the delegates to discuss what is there today. Okay. So, Gordon, your final remarks. I mean, at the end of this event, we expect to have adoptions, as I said, about implementation, accountability, and measurable impacts. But you're so ish-ish about it.
From the year 2023, at the UN, when the UN took a vote, when African states did take a proposal or a bill to have a UN tax reform, and they were running away from the OECD, it was so clear that when we get together as a people, as the global south, as African countries, they actually defeated the OECD model that has been there for years. And now we are towards having a total UN tax reform.
Yeah.
What is so difficult in Africans coming together and speaking in one voice? Then, as we say, there is a follow-up to everything. As we do this, can we ensure that the people know exactly what we are into, so that people don't begin to question? I saw yesterday a former vice president and one of the longest serving foreign ministers in this country, the Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka's remarks. You know, I know he's playing opposition politics, but one thing that I asked myself, what would have Raila said? You know, you have to know when to expose yourself, when to retreat, when to attack, and when to speak positive of your nation. All said and done, as a country, we must be proud that this is happening here. We must get excited that this is actually happening. Our country is being recalibrated, repositioned. We are signing new deals, new investments, but we must put the government to task in following up every other deal. Yes, we know some of these things will not be immediate. It is not like a cup of coffee. If you need immediate cup of coffee, go to a cafe. But for this, it will take time. 3, 4, 5 years later, we will begin to see benefits. Those benefits will only come if we follow through.
Yeah. Okay, all right. So, Dr. at the end of the day, we are waiting to see what's going to happen. Your expectations?
According to me, the key word here is measurable impact. I'm not expecting much, or I'm at a position of not expecting, because when you have high expectations, you get frustrated or embarrassed. And I really want to reserve myself to be more productive to myself. You know, when you peg that the summit is going to solve what I think should be solved, and then when it doesn't happen, then you are going to be broken. You are going to be broken. So I'm trying to be realistic to the fact that, and open-minded. I also don't want to put a lot of pessimism in it. I want to say, if it happens and solves a few of the problems that we are going through as a country, I'll really appreciate, and especially when the young people get an opportunity to put the knowledge they learned into a skill. You know, when you don't practice the knowledge you have learned in school, it means your skills you have not had an opportunity to use your skills.
Yes.
And that is just my humble prayer for starters.
Okay.
Yeah.
Edward, it's not the first time probably you're sitting in a podium. What would you, if you're to sit somewhere there and give 2 minutes to have a presentation, what would you tell the delegates with all the presidents seated there as an African?
I would say, first, this is not going to be different in the sense of where we have come from as a continent. We need to ask ourselves, as we sit in this strategic moment, are we setting the right legacy for the future generations? And if we are going to depart from the Berlin challenge that we had, where the continent was actually partitioned and scrambled, are we going to have Berlin 2 happening in this kind of conversation? So I would be very keen to say that our focus as a country and as a continent needs to look at how we can empower our people by better negotiations.
Okay. All right, so thank you. I mean, this summit is coming at a time that Kenya is also enjoying some warm corner. I must say that we've had so many summits by this year, and last year we've had so many of them. But the implementation, measurable impact, that's what Wanjiku, at the end of the day, Wanjiku in Africa is waiting to see at the end of the day. Gordon Kachola, thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Evelyn Ogendo, thank you so much for joining us. Eduardo Wanyonyi, asante sana as well. Okay, we are taking a break, but before then, why don't you cross over to Kisumu and talk about the Western Spectrum, more about innovations and basically what's happening in as far as this summit is concerned. And Simon Achola is taking the steering wheel from now. My name is Victor Lo. Good morning.
Well, thank you so much, Victor Lo. It is not Achola, Simon, but Weekly for Cage. And it, like you mentioned it is the time for Western Spectrum within a Good Morning Kenya show. It is a chilly morning from the lakeside city of Kisumu. But regardless, we'll move on. My name is Weekly for Cage, and it is now time for Western Spectrum. And like my colleague Victor Lo has mentioned, we want to talk about innovation in waste management. How waste is managed digitally. How can that be done? And the right person, the person to help us carry that conversation forward is none other than Benson Abila. Benson Abila is the co-founder and the chief executive officer of Mtaka Waste Solutions. And just straight on, Benson, good morning.
Morning.
It's a chilly morning in Kisumu.
It's very chilly, actually. Got rain on the
Sorry for that. Anyway, we keep moving on and we keep building the country. Yeah. Yes. People are wondering, even as you say hello to our viewers in just a minute, our viewers could be asking, how is waste managed digitally? What is it? Say hello to our viewers first.
Good morning. My name is Benson Abila. I'm co-founder and CEO of Mtaka, and as Wycliffe has mentioned, we are pioneering one of the, I think it's Africa's largest waste technology platform in its entirety. It's called Mtaka. And ideally, when you talk about innovation or technology in waste management, it just means that we are trying to bring technology and digital tools in the simplest manner possible in an informal sector. So all the way from a mobile phone recording your data, to getting access to a market through a marketplace, to getting access to credit. You know that people in the informal sector cannot even walk into a bank and get a loan, right? So we're trying to use technology to empower them and ensure that they can compete in the market as like any other businesses.
So you track waste and manage waste using the phone?
Yeah, so of course, Mtaka, we've had a lot of versions, and I think one of the beautiful components early on in our days that we had a public-private partnership with Kisumu County to just show how a model MRF can be optimized, the success using technology, right? But as a company, our heart or at core is that we look at the data, the day-to-day data in a business, right? And we record it. You know, once you record data from a book to a phone, it becomes useful information. That data can help the business person make decisions. That data can help the business person know where the market is. That data can help the business person really understand in his entirety, you know, how or when can I qualify for a loan. So I'd say technology catalyzes or accelerates and makes waste management more efficient, because you can do your business better, you can know where people are better, you can map the hotspots, you can manage your clients, so everything, you know, away from it. But I'll speak towards the end about the hardware innovations that also makes, you know, sort of waste management as innovative and as efficient as possible. Yeah.
Quite a number of times I've heard about the concept of circular economy, and I'm told no waste is waste.
Yes.
Tell us about
value. Waste is wealth. In this region, we normally say taka ni pesa. And then what that basically means is that everything that you see, you know, we're moving from a linear economy where, you know, you take and dump, you know, to circular economy where there is the component of reuse and a product can have another life. For example, if you buy a bottle of water, right, and it's with the Coca-Cola brand or Dasani, for example, and you drink it, you know that bottle becomes now a raw material for the next person. It can be taken, it can be crushed, can be used to make another material, right? Similar to organic waste, can be used, you know, with BSF technology to make protein or make organic manure, and that then means that nothing should go to waste. So the vision has always been with circular economy, you move towards a zero waste agenda, where everything is valuable and nothing goes to the landfill. But of course, we can talk about the dynamics of what goes and the other things that remains, what could then be done to them. Yeah.
Giving life to a waste product, yes, and this is done digitally. Take us step by step, because you mentioned the MRF. For me, I would understand the MRF, but then for the sake of viewer, you may want to take us step by step how waste is collected from the household tracked using the mobile phone, and then finally taken to where it can be given another life.
I agree. I think I'll say it in the simplified manner. So a lot of waste is generated, and waste generated mostly from the household, right? So once you buy bread or milk, you take your breakfast, it goes into the bin, right? Someone comes and picks it, who is a waste collector, right? But when they pick it, normally people mix it, so it becomes very difficult to separate, the valuable ones and they mix with the organic. But if you are ideally separating, it means that this individual would come, take the dry waste, take them to a facility. So we call them an aggregation facility, where as a waste actor, they can get money out of their own waste. So you can, sell plastics for 20 shillings, and it can even go higher, right? So they're able to take it. Then organic waste also take it to a facility. So an MRF is ideally a material recovery facility. The concept of recovering, it means that we are taking this thing from where it was at the source and trying to convert it into a valuable raw material for the next process. So what our technology does is that we're able to help the waste actors themselves manage the households, manage the clients, know when to pick the material, right? And even once they pick the material, right, they would know which client has paid, which one has not paid, or something like that. But then once they go to that facility, the manager of that facility also has clear visibility of what's coming in, what is my purchase, what is my inventory, right? What is there in stock? And then before they even struggle to say, what am I going to do with this material? They know the market. They can go to the market. But as you run a business, let's say in a year, you need to allow your data to work for you. Then now the data converts into meaningful resource. So what I'd say is that technology streamlines the recovery of materials from source to factory with visibility. Because there's a concept called traceability, where when you're using a product, you'd like to know where did it come from, right? Where was it recovered? Who was the waste actor who was involved? Yeah? What were they doing? And our technology brings visibility to that, because AI, blockchain, and every other thing is integrated in a simple manner on a mobile phone. Yeah.
You mentioned waste actors. I really want to know who waste actors are. And we must not forget there is a summit that is going on in Kenya, and this is a summit that brings together Africa and France, and it is called Africa Forward Summit. And we'll just right on your screen, on the split screen, you're seeing there's some of the events going on at the University of Nairobi, where the event, or rather the summit, will kick off today, and it will carry on to tomorrow. So even as we continue this discussion, or rather this conversation from the lakeside city of Kisumu, well on your screen is some of the events as they unfold at the University of Nairobi with regards to the ongoing Africa Forward Summit that is bringing together heads of state in Africa and the French nation that is in Europe. And you already know that some of the heads arrived in the country yesterday, and also even the French president, that is Emmanuel Macron, also arrived in the country just in readiness for the summit that will kick off today in just a few moments. Well, coming back to Kisumu, as we continue this conversation on waste management digitally, waste actors, who are these?
Of course, waste actors is the general term that you refer to anyone who is involved with waste, right? So I'd say a waste actor, like an actor. Who is an actor? Someone who takes action, someone who does the heavy lifting. So a waste actor is a practitioner, someone who on a day-to-day turns to waste as a source of livelihood, or tries to improve how waste is generally managed. So we have different levels. So we'd have a waste picker. Mostly people look at them like people who don't belong, people who, they're undignified in their nature, right? But they actually are 60% of the workforce that, does the recovery. So you have a waste picker, then you'd have, let's say, a waste collector, someone who collects waste from the household, to the facility, and then you'd have, let's say, an aggregator, someone who now buys it, and then, they can add value to it and process it. Then you have a recycler. A recycler is now someone who now, if you give me a bottle, and then I'm able to turn it into another bottle, or you give me a bottle, I turn it into, let's say, another plastic product, then I am a recycler, right? I give it another new form. So those are the different cadres and levels of waste actors, but then there are practitioners around that also accelerate the success of the different levels in the value chain.
So there is a clear value chain as to where...
Before we got into waste, I was lucky that I did my undergrad in civil engineering although my background, I grew up in informal settlements in Manyata here, you know, around poverty and struggle, and waste was around us.
So you know how waste is just...
Oh my God, I know the you know what it means, but I lost my father at an early age, and I actually went to an orphanage. And so I know what it means to lack, struggle, and be discriminated. And what that means is that when I finished my undergrad, I decided to come back to volunteer, and I realized that these young people, right, that were already struggling in informal settlements were also being discriminated for trying to turn to waste as a source of livelihood. And that didn't sit right with me. Because, you know, back then, kachok, or not kachok, it was actually called katos, right? It was so normal. You go pick this metal, you go away. No one would judge you. Yeah, that's now been moved to Kasese. But now, all of a sudden, if you do waste, you're being judged. So that's why Mtaka started 5 years ago, to dignify waste work and allow every other young person to say, I can turn to waste as a source of income and thrive.
Kisumu, there is a wide saying out there that Kisumu is one of the cleanest cities in Kenya. I need to commend actually for the good work that my friend Abala Wanga, the city manager, is doing. And I know he's not doing that alone. Mtaka is right into this. And I know it's just not Mtaka. Mtaka is not just having partnership with Kisumu, even Viga the other time. Tell us about the partnerships.
In fact, let me just try from a broader spectrum. You know, Mtaka, we've been lucky to scale nationally. You know, as I speak now, we're in over 8 counties. That'll be surprising, right? And yes, we're in 8 counties, and that means our technology has scaled. So we have over 130 facilities that are now using our platform, right? We have MOUs actually we have an MOU with Kisumu, we have one with Viga, and we are trying to get MOUs with the other counties. The other day I was in Mombasa, the other day I was in Kakuma. So we're trying to see how then do we scale this. But the level of partnership that we have is that we try to partner with these municipalities or with the counties or city on a smart city agenda, on a smart municipality agenda. How can they leverage the data from the recovery, the data from the generation to make better decisions? Did you know, Wycliffe, that circular economy is worth about $54 billion? Right? That means that's a lot of jobs for young people. That's a lot of opportunity, even for the government themselves. But they are unable to invest in it because they don't have visibility. They don't know the value of waste, where it's coming from, how it can be converted. They have ideas. But what we come in as Mtaka is to make those ideas real into an interactive dashboard and allow them to say, as the governor of this and this, or as a city manager, Balawanga, I am going to commit this amount of money. The same way Kisumu has built over 6 facilities in Kisumu because they had visibility into this is the waste and this is how we can turn it into value and jobs for young people.
I want to ask you a question that is very specific because when you walk around this stage, Kisumu stage, just beyond the stage, between stage and the United Mall, there is a waste recovery facility, but then you find it so scattered and littered all over. How your partnership with Kisumu, how does it work? Because we can still see waste around.
Interestingly enough, that facility you're mentioning is called Bilateral Recovery Facility. That actually we've done a lot of partnership with the county and the city on. But to surprise you, that waste is no longer there. You know, it was evacuated, that place is now clean, and then there's not a lot of chaos that area. But what was happening was that because the county normally have something called a transfer station where they place some skips for the public to come and you know, you put in your material, then the county will pick it and take it to the dump site. But some people misuse it. So because the stage is a high generation area of waste, people were now not handling it the right way. So I think the city came in, there was an intervention, we were able to do some cleanups to get the community there and tell them this is not the right way to do it. So right now, it's well and good, but if you walk into Maendeleo Recovery Facility, you will see the way it comes in, the way it is crushed, the way it is sold, the way jobs are created, the way that place is clean, and then you're able to have a different narrative and say, kumbe, taka ni pesa. Taka ni pesa. Yeah.
How does the community respond to this idea of circular economy, such that waste there's no waste, everything can be converted into something useful?
Mainly can drive a hard bargain. Because the community, that's an element of behavior change, you know, and years back, even if you go into a decade ago, people didn't really know that waste is wealth. So I'd say early when we started, the community was a bit resistant, but now they're very open, right? And I normally say this, even in your household right now, I'm sure you have some plastic bottles and some things, some box, some carton somewhere. If I come and tell you that this is value, or if I come and tell you, you know, you should dispose it the right way, you look at me, okay, what are you talking about? But if I tell you, you know, this and this and this is money, this is 50 bob, this is 100 bob, this is 200 bob. You're like, where can I get it? Madam, can you go and, go pick that money and let's buy some bread. So the community, there's an approach of incentivization to help them see this is value, and they can also partake in earning that value. But what's interesting is that the policies themselves, you look at Kenya, there is the Sustainable Waste Management Act of 2022 that encourages and says that your waste is your responsibility, right? In fact, if you don't separate your waste at source, there's a fine, right? Yeah, and that means that everyone is now being nudged with the public authorities, with the community actors, with the waste actors to partake in the process. So we just hope that the community can do better, because if they separate their waste at source, that means that the waste that goes to the facility is cleaner, and the waste picker is able to earn more, the waste actors can earn more, and you can build a circular economy within your municipality or county. Yeah.
You've been in this space for a long time, and you mentioned about the act. Are Kenyans even aware of this act, and even do they even adhere to it?
I think being a Kenyan myself, I know the challenges that happens when it comes to laws and then be implemented. You remember the plastic ban that was done, I think 2019 or thereabouts, and all of a sudden people were able to listen to that ban. But not because it was a ban, and not because sometimes they understood to the end, but because there was enforcement. If you were caught, right? There was a hefty fine and a jail term. Similar things are in the Sustainable Waste Management Act, where the public could be, exposed to such consequences. So I'd say people may not be fully aware. There's a lot of sensitization being done. NEMA has done them, actors have done them, PROs have done them. We have done them as MTACA, but more could be done. So my take is if we can also strengthen enforcement, people know that this waste is just no longer about me being nudged to handle it the right way, but it's a responsibility. And if I do not take that responsibility, there are consequences. That's why you see Abala Wanga running all the time, telling people this is wrong, this is right, do this, do that. And you see the director for Kisumu, Director Ben, even Director Viga, Director Quilla. You can see how there's a lot of intention to let the public know that if you don't do this, these are the consequences. Because that is the only way you reach people at mass. Yeah, education sometimes, they say the carrot and the stick. Yeah, it does not work fully.
You mentioned something to do with my waste being my responsibility and separation of waste at the source. Expand that further.
So I told you about the value chain, and I told you about how it works in terms of how someone is able to make a business out of it, right? So if for a facility to recover even half a ton a year, for example, or 500 kilograms, let's say a good quantity in a year, 500 tons, right? They would have to get it from a source. So what happens is that normally in the house, people mix. Maji ya ugali unamwaga hapo ndani, chupa unaweka hapo ndani, nini unaweka hapo ndani. Sasa ule jamaa akikuja kuchukua takataka, when they come collect it, they are struggling to recover. Yeah, so most of it end up going to the dump site or the landfill because it's unrecoverable. But if you separate it at source, huyu jamaa na kazi rahisi, anachukua organic anapeleka pale, inaweza kuwa chakula nguruwe, inaweza kuwa itumike na BSF because there are other technologies as well, right, that convert it into valuable materials. Anachukua hii dry, anapeleka pale maendeleo ama popote pale, ana pesa. So segregation at source is a necessity, and it is in the law. Separate, because when you separate, you make the work of the value chain easier. So that hii maneno ya sijui taka ni chafu, sijui taka is an ISO, it moves away, because hata wewe mwenyewe kwa nyumba yako ni handle, na maana hata ukiangalia unasema baba hebu chukua weka huko nje. Not like wacha huyo jamaa kuja chukue peke yake, because you don't even want to interact with it. Yet you are the one who caused the chaos around the waste itself.
You're very right, because the other day when I was at Nyalenda, in Nyalenda, the slums just next to us here, and the Amazing Grace Center, and so a middle-aged lady brings some materials there, then they are weighed, and then she's paid.
One is able to earn from waste. There's this idea of wanasemanga white collar. Unavaa vizuri, unaingia kwa ofisi, I'm doing a job, and you think that, this job is great. No, I'm not fighting us. I'm also in between white collar and blue collar. But the guys who handle waste, you'll be surprised that if I do my recovery right, I could earn quite a good amount of money. Do you know that even the guys who, let's say, when they collect the waste, right, and you've paid the truck collection company, once they separate it further, they can go and earn additional income from it. right? And that means that there's a lot of opportunities in waste. And the reason why we say that even the community and the household need to know about it, because if a young mother knows about it, right, then they can work themselves and take it and earn money themselves, right? But if they do not do it, then the waste pickers come in, because they have to come and scavenge and also, figure out where to get that material. So it's possible. Amazing Grace are doing great work. Shout out to Renice and Meshach, for the wonderful work they're doing. We work together greatly, and I know that it is such community initiatives that are at the first step of increasing recovery. Because if there's no one in the community running a buyback center or a waste collection thing, where will you find this waste? So you'll find it under barabara hapo. Then you start making noise and say the government is not doing their job. The governor has a strong commitment to clean city. If he passes, it feels like someone is not doing their job right. Yet it is the community member when you see alienda dump the wrong way. Yeah.
Just on the back of that illustration that I've given regarding that mama who brought some material there and earned something. Yes. So Mtaka, generally, yes, what do you assess as the economic impact of it?
Wow. As Mtaka, I'd say we have largely currently led to an increase in over 3 times the income of the actors themselves.
How many do you work with?
So I think in our network, we have over 3,000, we'd say, users, right? So that waste pickers that come to facilities, guys that are at these facilities, waste collectors, yeah? But in Kisumu, largely, we have a network of about 500 thereabout, to 600 that we've actually trained. So once you're trained, you're told, taka ni pesa, this is how you can manage a business. The next step is you're given gears. So Vahi, you're branded your company, we sometimes co-branded them, Taka and partners and supporters. And then the next step is you give them some seed capital, some 5K, 10K, up there to 50,000. Then they're able to start out. They're able to say, can I buy this waste and make income out of it? So through this, we've seen that a lot of youth and women are able to actually earn better. Because when you introduce technology, then we change the game. How? If you're just running your business like just a regular person na kuganda barabara na anafanya biashara yake, ni ngumu sana ujamaa grow from that level to level. Let's say A, B, C, D. But when you introduce technology now you've started someone with a catalytic fund, it means that the data goes back to the record keeping I was telling you about. The data that they have on a day-to-day can go to a manner that as much as they know who to sell to, right? They know what they're doing, but then they are ready. The bank can now come and say, Equity Bank can come and say, we want to give you money. Then let's say, then when they walk to the bank, they tell the bank, I want some money. The bank will ask them, can I see your records? They can download a report from the Mtaka platform, our integrated circularity platform, and that can be able to help them even get access.
So it has empowered them.
Oh, tremendous. By the way, we are scaling. We're not just based in Kenya alone. I told you when I started, I'd say our goal is to become Africa's largest waste and even circular tech company. So currently we're in Kenya, we want to scale to Zimbabwe, so we should go into Zimbabwe before the end of the year, and Kampala. But our goal is not to stay there. We want to become an East African and largely then an African-based company, right? Because then only at scale, data at scale, market at scale, empowerment at scale is what then makes sense to really show the circular economy can empower lives the way we want to do. Yeah.
About 500 in Kisumu and generally 3,000. What is the composition of your membership?
Because you see, we partner with waste actors. We support their success. And in our work, we've had a lot of partners that have worked with us the journey. A lot of them, I couldn't be able to mention all of them. I mean, from EU, funded, GIZ, Embassy, all these guys, KCIC, and everyone else that have supported us. And you see that what we notice is that most of the intervention have been towards women. So over 60% of the people that we work with have been women. And you see the way women become more confident, they're able to participate safely and better in the sector. They're able to say, I'm able to earn something, I am respected, I can make a living, I can go back home with something, and that gives us the joy. So I'd say most of the people we really work with are women, but also the youth and the men are not left out. And where youth, also women are there, but the men are also not left out because the men are the primary. If you look at the sector, there's actually a lot more men than women generally in the sector because of the nature of the work that goes into waste management. Yeah.
So taka ni pesa imeokolea watu sana.
Sana.
Other than economically, environmentally, what do you assess as the impact?
And you talk about when waste is not handled the right way, there's a lot of CO2 emissions that come from the mismanagement. As Mtaka, from our platform, you can already track over 3,300 tons, right? Which is over 9,000 metric tons of CO2 avoided, right? But that's just us. But every other actor, if you're able to assess, the better we manage the waste, the safer we are helping the environment. Waste disposed the wrong way leads to a lot of diseases, right? I mean, I told you I lived in the slums. You could see you can be exposed cholera, nini, hata ukienda ukadungwa na kitu inakuwa mbaya sana. Lakini ukimanage waste vizuri, means to avoid diseases, you've lit a lot of environmental health and safety, hata ile kunuka. Unasema taka sometimes inanuka utaki kusikia harufu, si ndio? If you manage it well, haitanuka kwa sababu itakuwa inapangwa vizuri, inakuwa recovered vizuri, inapelekwa pahala pazuri. So the health benefits are there in terms of environmental impact, but also the environmental impact at scale. It means that we are saving, when there's global warming and then the ozone layer and then there's climate change, right? And then climate change, you see the way now things are happening, there's flooding all over the city. You saw Nairobi the other day, Nairobi flood, and sometimes even this waste, ikimanajiwa vibaya in a block drain, maji inakuja. So instead of water getting there's a lot of rains, instead of water getting natural path, umeblock na takataka, inakuja ina flood. Then people start saying, oh, serikali's idea, oh, we need help. Yet it is you who would have contributed. So the environmental impacts in terms of better managing the waste is vast. And we can only get there if you work together as a community and you understand that your waste is your responsibility.
Working together as the community, and this boils down to waste separation at the source. But then, Benson, let us look at this practically. If you want to separate waste at the source to improve, or rather to comply with the act, that means you will require more than, quite a number of bins. Economic muscle.
And I love how you brought it out, and I think this is one of the things that people should talk about a bit more. Of course, the truth is that separation is not very easy. And NEMA put out a regulation and said, this is how, this was an instruction to show how this is how you're supposed to separate. There was a black bin, green bin, and the blue one, and I think the black had general, blue had recyclables, and then the green had organic, and then there was that depiction already in terms of the bins. And not everyone can get there. Not everyone has the capacity to do that. But I normally say, even in the most basic form, chakula organic iko na maji, weka kando. Hata kama ni kwa ndoo, weka kando. Anything dry, weka kando. Because wewe mwenyewe, hiyo dry ukiweka vizuri kwa gunia hata kwa wiki mbili, utapata pesa kwa hiyo maneno. Because when you pay for waste collection from a range of 50, 200, even 1,000 bob, and you're able to sell that, your dry waste in gunia, so utapata that money back. And even you can try and trade with the guy coming to collect from you. Naambia hebu nipimie mali nataka nilipe. You see? Then hii organic, I'm sure if they collect it and they even have someone who they can take it maybe kwa nguruwe ama kwa organic waste, it becomes easy. So I normally say separation of waste isikuwe ni kama ni kizungumkuti. Ikuwe ni big science ya segregation. Ni wewe tu kujua hata kwa nyumba tu. Niweke hii kando, niweke hii kando. Ndipo sasa ule mwingine ambaye anakuja after me kuichukua kama raw material, anakuwa na kazi rahisi. Afanye kazi anafeel ni kama, hii nyumba kwani mnakulanga nini? Ndio akifungua tu hivi, labda mlikula samaki ama mlikula chakula mzuri sana. So I don't know if I'm able to break it down in a simple manner, but it is not complicated. It's just initiative and understanding someone else is coming to pick this to make money out of it.
I like how you used in that word, deposit. People make fun of it. Yes. But how do we ensure sustainability in waste management in terms of environmental impact? How do we just ensure that whatever we do, it lasts longer?
Two angles. Sustainability, the first angle, and this is what I love to do and what I love to talk about, partnerships. No one can do anything alone, right? Because, for example, if you look at how Mtaka started, we started with a model, we went to the community, we were trying to make it work, right? And at some point we got partners, we got funding, we got support, and right now if you look at even how we're scaling with partners. You look at people like Practical Action, Danish Refugee Council, VSO International, we are scaling with partners, right? The government in itself has the resources. You want to work with the government to leverage its infrastructure. So if you're moving alone, you cannot do much, but if there's that partnership, the waste actors, the private sector who have investment, the actor themselves, there's a lot of progress. But the other thing that I think I will even leave the watchers with, the viewers with, is that one of the ways to make waste management better in a sustainable manner is investment. That's no other thing. Investment. Money has to come in, Wycliffe. If this is an economy, right? Unasikianga agriculture an economy, ndio? Mining is an economy. Waste is an economy. Circular economy is an economy. People have to come and put money. If we need infrastructure, if we need a facility where the waste comes and is processed, money has to be put in. A private investor will bring that money. The government itself can invest their money and put up that structure, and business themselves can also work to the bank and finance us to get that money. But then the sad truth is that the way the sector is set up, it is informal. Most informal actors don't get access to support. They don't have the confidence of the government to give them all these things. They don't have the right data to be able to do this. That's why Ntaka is coming in. In fact, I say at scale, one of the biggest success metrics is that we will have used data to help actors grow from a level A to level C, because that data can now be used to credit score them so they can get money to grow and invest further. That for me is sustainability, honestly, at scale. Yeah.
All right. Fine. Like, I'll keep reminding you, those scenes you're seeing on the split screen, on the split side of your screen, there are some live images from the ongoing summit that is set to kickstart today, actually, from the University of Nairobi. That is the Africa Forward Summit, the summit that brings together African nations and France as they chart the way forward in terms of development. And Benson, regarding this summit that kicks off today, I'm so sure innovation is part of the discussion that is going will go in there. How our conversation this morning, how does it relate to this summit?
I'd say innovation involves, so there's simple, basic local innovation. The way you see people using BSF, you see let's say we have a digital technology that's able to transform things, but also there's always advanced level of innovations where there's like machinery and robotics and all these things. Yes.
Environmental conservation.
Yes. So you can see, for example, you walk into advanced facility and you could see that even the way they're processing, there's some robotics and there's AI imagery scanning and innovation at big scale. But what I normally say, all these innovations, whether international, whether it's complex, can be simplified in a local context. And there has to be innovators who are ready to learn and adapt, but also ready to promote what's happening locally. So if you look at, for example, the conference, you'll see that there will be a lot of innovations, let's say from France, what's happening, right? Best case scenario, what we could learn and what we could then implement. And even if you look at France themselves, there's a lot of commitments. There's something called extended producer responsibility. France has one of the strongest motive, and being that they're part of the EU has a strong commitment to circular economy, right? So one of the things we could learn is how best are they doing it, and how could we bring it to accelerate the success of our sector, right? Remember, in terms of independence, Kenya is 60-something years old, right? We're just getting there. So we're still a young nation. In terms of innovation, we could borrow, adapt, and see what works. But even what we have locally, the goal would be, are there investors from France? Are there people in that summit? Are there practitioners? Are there people who are willing to say, there's this unique or innovative African company, Mtaka, or any other company that we want to work with to ensure that we bring our innovation, or also learn from them and bridge the gap between the Africa and France market, trade, and everything. Yes.
The concept of traceability is something that I know will feature in there. And also, apart summits like this one, just the other day we had is it ASCA?
Yes.
In Kisumu.
Yes.
How did this impact your scope and going forward? How does does it mean for waste management?
The Smart City Summit, one of the landmarks for us that we're able to then finalize that MOU with the city, about the Smart City agenda. So we were part and parcel of, I think we had a breakfast with the governor and we had the conversation around what could we do better. And I think the goal was to demonstrate that sometimes innovation and the city being smart, it doesn't really have to start from outside or someone saying, let's bring in this. The local innovations are already there that are doing the work that could just be amplified. So I'd say that the fact that Kisumu even hosted that conversation, it's the commitment. You see every day, and I think I'm a very big fan of following both the city's page and the county's page, and we look at what the government is doing. There's a lot of collaboration with bilateral states, with other states, and seeing that what can we learn from China, what can we learn from the UK, what can we learn from America. And this is the kind of conversation that catalyzes growth. Because Kisumu was named among top 20 cleanest cities by the UN. There's a UN Habitat sort of ranking that then put, the UN agency put that Kisumu on the map. But Kisumu didn't just get there accidentally. It got there by being very intentional. by the leadership saying we want to be the first, if not the first, we want to be the most progressive in this agenda. So that Smart City Summit, personally for me, being that I'm from Kisumu, born and bred here, and innovation started here, speaking on that panel, sharing what we're doing, for me was a milestone to indicate that there's a level of commitment from the government to accelerate public-private partnership to scale the work that we're doing. So I know it's a lot of words, but it's just to say it was good for us, very successful. And I think since then, we even developing smart city dashboards for the city themselves, so they can see how waste is recovered, and they can use that to attract more investment to grow the sector and unlock its potential. Yeah.
So investment in the sector is very critical.
Well, I mean, Wycliffe, this is my 5th year in this sector. I have had a bit more experience growing up. I'd say growing up I was a waste picker myself because I know exactly what it means. But tell me, once I'm 10 years in or more, in terms of my experience, what is that one thing that I will look back and say, this happened? Of course, the metric for me is that waste will have been dignified and will be seen as a source of income. But what will truly matter? Kenya is a middle-income country. Kenya is the 6th largest economy in Africa. It means we're moving from aid to trade. There's a shift, right? Even you work closely, you look at the American government, you look at the agenda is commercial diplomacy, right? For me, the pride would be the circular economy that we see now also has to move into a business. It doesn't have to see that, every time there's development aid coming to see what can we do, there's training for youth and women. No, let it be a business that I wake up, I go take a loan, or I start it, I grow it, I take a loan to get trucks, to get everything so that I can be able to thrive in it. And the banks and everyone can look at it as a portfolio. See, you go to a bank, you see there is a huge money allocated to agriculture. Like, Lisa, do you have a waste management portfolio? Nakwambia, hapo bado tunaangalia kidogo, unaweza tusaidia. And that's why people like Mtaka exist. Because the data, we can convert it into meaningful resource for even the bank to say we can design a product so that then people in the sector can also build sustainable growing businesses.
The other day I saw, Eldoret is the latest city that we have in Kenya, and I saw them come to benchmark with Kisumu with regards to how waste can be managed successfully to carry forward, rather to promote this idea of the smart city concept. Smart city concept. How do you understand it? Just basically.
Yeah, I normally say, I mean, of course, what is the word smart? Just get smart. There's always a thing about either technology, of course, but even smart in school. You're very smart. It's like an advancement. It's better than the usual, right? I think a smart city is ideally, it's for me looking at it from technology. That's my spectrum anyway. And people normally want to see how do we make things better.
Correlate this to waste management.
Yeah. So how do you waste management? It's done a very informally. Even the trucks that the county own, right? Can they know the routes? Can they know the most efficient routes that enable them to save fuel? Can they know when a bin is full so that they can go and pick it? Can they know the amount of recovery they've done? Can they know if they've set up infrastructure where they give it to private actors to manage? Can they know what these actors actually recovering? Can that data be used to say, we were at point A, now we are doing better? So smart city is mostly, and I look at it from an angle of using your day-to-day data to make better decisions, using your day-to-day data to attract investment, using your day-to-day data to ensure that even if it's digital innovation or hardware or anything that you integrate, everything becomes better because it's transparent, it is open, and you can look at it real time. That's how I look at that.
And it is data that promotes traceability with regards to waste management and collection.
In fact, you keep mentioning about traceability. Traceability, in fact, what caught to us is traceability. I mean, because you look at advanced technology like blockchain integration that then allows traceability to be sort of farmed up. But then traceability, it is the heart, because at the end of the day, people want to know, where did this come from? Weekly, if you come here and you're telling viewers and saying that, Kisumu has done A, B, C, D, and someone asks you, where is it from? The ability to be able to quote and show, that's the journey of traceability. It is traceable in its own nature. So at scale, the economy of circularity, even recycling, sometimes there is that component of once companies convert the plastic into pellets, they now resell them, right, to large producers, right? And you might say you want to even take them to the EU, you want to take them, let's say, to the EU, they'll want to know, where did this thing come from? And if you're able to tell a story and show this thing came from Nyalenda, where West Picker came from Nyalenda A and took it to Amazing Grace, And then from Nyarenda 8, went, let's say, to Maendeleo, then he went to Nairobi. That is traceability. And you can even know the brand and everything. That makes things better. And that value chain can even allow people to say, wow, because Nyalenda is doing so well, why don't we build another facility in Nyalenda? That's the power of traceability. Yeah.
Even as we move towards the end of this conversation, we can see at the University of Nairobi, where the Africa Forward Summit is set to kick off. President William Ruto has made its way to the University of Nairobi at that venue, and that means the summit will kick start not very far from now, and once it starts, actually, we'll beam that live to you straight on your screen, so you'll be able to follow that from the comfort of your from whichever part you are in. But as we conclude this conversation on digital waste management here in Kisumu with my guest here, Benson Abila. Abila, MTACA has been around for, you mentioned, about 5 years now, and traceability, empowering the informal waste actors is something you're big on. What's next for MTACA?
We had this conversation with one of our board members just last week, and the truth is that, I even say that sometimes when you have a good thing and when you have an innovation that you can see that in a small capacity is able to transform lives, is able to create the difference, the greatest contribution you can give to the continent is to have it at scale. That's it. If it's working, scale it. If it's doing well, scale it. So for me, I say the next steps for MTACA is scale and growth. And I mentioned to you earlier that right now we're in over 8 counties, right? And we have all these actors, over 130 facilities that are using our technology. We want to get to 500, God, we want to get to 1,000 people, because at scale, we have visibility into what's really happening. Where is the effort? Where is the data? How can this data help grow? But the next thing that I'd say that we want to strengthen is the access to catalytic capital. Because I think largely when we started, we were doing a lot of trainings, then we transitioned to availing the technology platform for business management, traceability and intelligence and analytics. But then now we are looking at, even if you train someone and give them tools, there's always a component of money to start out. So we want to see, can we strengthen the catalytic circular funding that we provide to emerging enterprises, so that then we can credit score them and they can get access to bigger funding to grow. So I'd say we move from impacting 1,000 aggregators to even 10,000, 100,000. We move from having up to 10,000 with speakers to over 50,000 with speakers. So then if you have this conversation with me 2 or 3 years from now, I'm telling you, oh wow, I just came from Ghana, or I just came from this place, and this is what we are doing to them that is different from what we are doing to Kenya. Yeah.
So bringing on board many countries beyond the borders is one thing that you really envision.
If I could summarize it, because what does that mean? Because I've told you where we are headed, but what does that mean internally? So we are building the digital infrastructure of circular economy, right? Because it's informal, it's there. There's a time I was in a conference, and the guy said that India was informal for a great time, right? And they were struggling, how do we help this sector grow? But then they realized that there was just one thing that helped them grow, when they introduced the concept of record keeping, where an informal business just keeps their record. And that record keeping is what helped India advance its informal sector, right? And what that mirrors for MTACA is that as we build the digital infrastructure, the first layer is the record keeping. Once we have that record going in, everyone can tap into anything, market, credit, anything, even digital identities, right? Because some of the West speakers, they work in that. I was at Dandora dump site. Someone doesn't even have an ID, right? And it's just not easy to be able to get this. So the digital infrastructure that we build will look at digital identities, we'll look at traceability, we'll look at financial inclusion, we'll look at all these things. But we then don't just build it for MTACA. We build it in a, technology says it, in an interoperable manner, where you as Wycliffe, tomorrow, you decide, I've had so many interviews with Benson and the city manager, I want to do something in West. I think I have a digital idea. You don't start from scratch. You come and ask MTACA, show me what you have so far. Can I plug in? There's a concept of integration. That's what we are envisioning. And you're talking to partners to be able to help us. How can we do this together? How can we do this at scale? Because one of the low-lying fruit, Wycliffe, there's something called extended producer responsibility, where producers or companies are supposed to give back money, right, to help catalyze, incentivize the recovery of materials. But you know, they cannot do that without verified data. They can't do that. And who will help them unlock this? We hope that MTACA is able to do that at scale.
Yeah. Right. Before I give you the 1 minute to make your call to action, what do you expect to pick from this summit that is will be kicking off very shortly from the University of Nairobi?
Finally, commitments, investment. I told you, personally for me, I don't know for them, the more I'm in the sector, the more I have a bias towards investment, you know. But investment, because we have an innovation hub here, and you look at enterprises that are just starting out, and when you interact with enterprises, even at our HOK hub, you find that a lot of them are stuck at investment. So for this summit, I'd love to see, are there any commitments? If you talk about innovation, talk about investment, talk about anything, are there things that we can follow up on as a young person? Is there something that even if I got a summary of the summit for the days, I'd say, wow, I want to pursue this, I want to pursue this? Because mostly in these conferences, there's a lot of talk, a lot of learning, a lot of, we can do this. But can we crystallize it to something that I'd say, for example, if they say, we're going to give $200 million to circular economy through this and this, and then as MTACA we say, wow, we'd like to see how we can unlock that $200 million for the entire sector, including ourselves. Yeah.
What is your call to action? Speak to our viewers. Tell them you've mentioned Taka ni pesa and my waste is my responsibility. Speak a message to them as we end this.
Taka ni pesa, and it's equivalent to, let it not be a jargon for you. You can earn money from waste, but the only easiest way to earn money from waste is that when you take it as your own responsibility. So your waste is your responsibility. The value chain is vast. Please join and partake. And how you can start? Separate your waste at source, have your dry waste and organic waste. If the actor comes to you, please ensure that you make the work easy and recovering. If you decide you want to earn from it, you can also pick it and take it to the nearest buyback center to earn from it. So I hope that when we talk about waste is wealth, all of us can be a part of it, because the dignity that comes to waste sector and the dignified green jobs that you want to create cannot be fueled without your participation. So help us so that we can do this together.
How can someone who is interested in working with you, how does it happen?
info@mtaka.co.ke. You can find me anywhere. Just reach out to us. In fact, we are open for partnerships. We are open for scaling. We're looking at different models, franchise models. We're looking at how do we get ourselves. So if you're anywhere in the continent, or the continent might be large very now, but Kenya right now, I think even tomorrow we can figure something out, because we are scaling organically with regards to our own network and what we know. But if you're out there and you think there's something we can do together, because technology is powerful. The integrated circularity platform we've built that is powered by AI, blockchain, and every other thing you can think about is what will change the sector. So reach out, let's collaborate, let's partner, and let's make circular economy greater than it already is.
Before I let you go, there is something that I want you to emphasize, because you know the Environment Day is coming up next month, yes? And sustainability in waste management, that is something I want you to emphasize on even as we hand this over to the other side.
Let's move away from just waste management to sustainable waste management. Let's do things sustainably. One of the easiest ways, let's move away from you buy, you use, and you dump to circular economy, right? Where that thing can be value for the next, right? Innovation and technology you've seen is vast, and tech can do so much, from the data, from the insect technology that is being used in BSF, from the advanced hardware that can be used in managing a facility. There's a lot of things that can be done. But you should be able to partake in that in the simplest manner possible, because some people don't even pay for waste collection. Some people still dump their waste at night. They dump it in the drains. Some people in the market still put it in the drains. The only way you partake is if you become responsible. In sustainable waste management, the difference between other types of waste management is that sustainable waste management involves everyone, everybody. So stop what you're doing, get a waste collector, separate your waste, earn from it, and help the sector grow. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I believe that has been quite an informative conversation we've had for the last 40 minutes or so with my guest here, Benson Abila, the co-founder and the CEO of MTACA Waste Solutions, that is based here in Kisumu, but has roots in more than 8 counties now, and even beyond the borders. But something that is leaving you with, your waste is your responsibility, and there is value in waste. So you better take action and earn from waste. If you're just joining us, if you missed this conversation, you remember you can still catch it because it was live on our YouTube, and you can also just visit our YouTube later on to catch this conversation, the whole of it. Well, like I mentioned, Kenya is hosting the Africa France Summit. And we have a whole team at the University of Nairobi that is going to bring you every detail, every aspect, every angle of that conversation that will be going on there. And my colleague Alan Aoko is right now on standby to tell us what's happening there right now, because we know that the heads of states have been there, and the President William Ruto, who is the host president, has already made his way there. And we just expect a lot of commitment regarding innovation areas in Africa. That is where I put a cap. My name is Zuglo Fokech. Let me hand you back to take you to Nairobi, University of Nairobi, for that summit.
Arriving to do his duty of hosting and welcoming the delegates here. Remember, the Africa Forward Summit is a huge summit structured upon several agenda, and we do have up to 32 heads of state and government just to come and deliberate on issues related to the French-Africa relationship. The Africa Forward Summit is an Africa-France partnership for innovation and growth being held here in Nairobi, and it will be today and tomorrow, the 12th of May 2026. The summit is co-hosted by Kenya and the French Republic. The summit aims to demonstrate the African continent's innovation capacity and affirm a shared commitment to developing common, mutually beneficial solutions based on effective multilateralism and a spirit of transformative partnership. Here at the University of Nairobi, I can confirm that delegates are already seated at the main plenary hall, which is the Taifa Hall. We do have other events surrounding the summit. We have one at the library, the Jomo Kenyatta Library. It is the business forum, which is also happening concurrently from the main plenary session here at Taifa Hall where we are. This is the place where the president will actually come in and also welcome the French president, Emmanuel Macron, who is in the country, arrived yesterday, was received at State House Nairobi, and is also going to make his way here very soon. And we will also witness a few activities before they actually enter the hall here, where the presidential band is entertaining the guests just before the main guests enter the plenary hall. Now remember, this summit represents a significant opportunity for a shift to a more balanced, equitable and mutually respectful partnership. And it is meant to show the transformative partnership that is sustainable and is developing in Africa's urgency in addressing pressing emerging regional and global challenges. Of course, we are anchored on several themes here in this summit, one of them being energy transition and green industrialization. These are some of the very important issues that have brought all these people together, all the stakeholders, all the CEOs of companies and state agencies of many other countries further afield. We also have the reform on the international financial architecture, which our viewers would know Dr. William Ruto has been advocating for, to reform the financial architecture to better mobilize private capital in a more equitable way, rather than giving Africa a different kind of rating, which protagonists say is unfair. We also have the blue economy as a serious thematic option here, where strategic priorities in maritime governance and environmental security will be looked at. We also have sustainable agriculture that will be talked about here, where we will strengthen multi-stakeholder partnerships to support the transition towards productive, sustainable and resilient food systems in Africa. We do have 800 meetings that are expected in this forum. We did find the head of the Business France agency who spoke to us and told us that they're expecting 800 meetings with small and large businesses who are looking to strike deals in these sectors, in sustainable agriculture, in technology, in energy transition, in AI and digital technologies, in resilient health systems, and so on and so forth. If you have a startup and you are looking to deal make, this is probably the historic summit for you. This is the very first time such a summit is being held in an English-speaking country with the French coming in. And I can confirm to you, so far the presidents that we have seen who are around the vicinity, we do have also other presidents who are invited and did come since yesterday. We did see the president of Cote d'Ivoire was here as well, the Gabonese president, we have the president from Liberia as well, and many others who will also attend this very summit, which is historic. And as you know, Kenya is the cradle of mankind and also the Africa's Silicon Savannah, and many